everybody? Welcome to Frame Trap, a show where we excitedly talk about video games and whatever crazy things Huber just has to bring.
Excitedly now.
Excitedly now.
All right.
Yeah, we're excited.
Right,
we're here.
right.
I'm excited because of something very special that I have to talk about, which we'll get into very shortly. But first, introductions are in order. Right next to me, the ever-lovable Michael Huber.
Hello.
What's this? What is this?
This
What does
is
this
the
mean?
Monster Among Men.
Okay. Is this a wrestling thing?
This is.
Oh.
Okay.
This is Braun Strowman. He's had a hell of a year.
Okay.
Okay, he came into WWE in like 2015 or 15 or so. He was part of the Wyatt family, which was this like crew.
You're like obsessed with the Wyatt family.
The Wyatt family. So it was like 4 of them. They used to wear these freaky like sheep masks and like gas masks and like used to like abduct people and like do these demonic rituals.
Was it love at first sight?
Yeah, the Wyatt family was a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
So then he like splintered off, and for the last like little over the last year or so, he's just had an incredible solo run of just doing crazy destructive gimmicks.
Yeah.
Like throwing over ambulances, bringing down the rafters, putting people through tables, just like insane things. So he's gonna have a match at WrestleMania. There's hype, and then like he just put this shirt on the WWE shop, and I bought it on sale like during the last pay-per-view. I was like, I gotta support him because when you buy merch from wrestlers, you really are voting with your dollars because like they get a percentage, and then the people who sell the most merch just like straight up get the most TV time and the most hype. It's like it is kind of a competition with.
Is that just like a known thing, or is that something that WWE says?
They
like,
never say it, but it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's a known.
That's kinda cool, though.
Thing, yeah. So like when you go to an event, like I went to Raw like a month ago or so, like a month and a half ago. When you go to the event, you see like you go to the merch store and it's just like the top couple people of like their items there.
Sure.
Because in most of popular culture, if you play a character or are a character and someone buys a toy of you, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Today you're rocking, as a coaster, this isn't going to play super well in the audio version, but we have a Resident Evil 2 coaster.
The greatest coaster ever made.
Made out of
PS1
game
box art.
Yeah.
It's the greatest.
It messes with my brain because it doesn't open, but it's just like all I want to do is crack it open and take out that little mini disc that's in there.
Resident Evil 2 on GameCube.
All I want to do it. A man who needs no introduction, right next to Michael Huber, Brandon Jones.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, you seem like you're peppy today.
I haven't been on Frame Trap in a dog's age.
I know. I always get nervous because you have so much going on.
Right.
You got all these projects you're trying to do.
This will be an interesting Frame Trap test because I have nothing new to bring to this table.
Yeah,
I have a game to talk about,
games.
but it is a game that I have played before.
My theory is, based on the lineup of games that we have, you have a lot to say. We'll see if that theory holds true.
Give me the news.
Yeah.
Talk to me about
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I am your host, Ben Moore. I think I've had too much caffeine. I think that's a lot of where this style is coming from. Had a blast of coffee, and now I'm drinking a Coke.
I've had an espresso and a coffee.
Yeah, we'll
So
see.
I'm-
I
It's
would
gonna
love
be
a
a
good
ride.
2.5 hour crash from Ben Moore. I'd love like the last 20 minutes of this podcast. You're just like you're kind of leaning into the mic.
Emails.
But yeah,
Nino Cooney's out in like 5 days.
Okay.
So I'm counting down.
the review is done for Michael Damiano. In fact, by the time you are watching this, the review is probably up, and he's probably already given it an 11. So go watch that if you haven't.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
He liked it.
Did he? But how much?
How much?
How much?
I know
How
the
much?
score.
Do you?
Yeah, I know it. Can't say it. Can't. Moving on.
It's a good
Damiani?
video
Moving
game.
on.
All right. It's been a wild ride, Easy Allies. In fact, by the time you watch that transition, by the time you watch this episode, we will have celebrated live our 2nd anniversary. It's been 2 years.
Kicking off the celebration, people are going to Disneyland today. Sunday night we're having a concert.
Yeah.
Monday night, Tuesday night we're having a stream, and Wednesday's the actual anniversary. So it's all sorts of stuff.
It's not that when I started this, I was like pessimistic and I was like, no way, this will last 2 years. But I didn't have like 2 years in mind. All I had in mind was like, oh my God, what's happening?
Every
just
day
chaos.
is a gift.
Right, exactly. Perfect way to frame it. And so my simple question for you before we get rolling on into the games is, what has changed about you? What has changed about you, Michael Huber, from day one to 2 years later? It's a tough question. It's
Very
a loaded
intense question.
Yeah, same to you, Brandon. So you can get to start thinking.
In 2 years, I'm way more confident in my writing.
I just want to say that I think your reviews now have gotten better too. I've seen the improvement. It's awesome.
Yeah, I feel a lot more confident writing. I write faster, and I just have more confidence when I'm doing it. I don't second guess myself as much. Yeah, I try to stop and think a little more maybe than I did a couple years ago. Like I'm a very impulsive person, but I think I pause now just for a fraction of a second versus not pausing or thinking at all. There's a fraction.
Wow.
Yeah, just one.
You'll get that up to a half a second by year 3.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remind me, you know how like Mark Ruffalo is like the spoiler guy of the Marvel universe? Like he's always in interviews and they're like, you're not you're like the Mark Ruffalo of like Easy Allies.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I think that is a huge compliment.
Like,
I would like to be that is a good compliment.
Love Ruffalo.
You wear that like a badge of honor.
I love it.
Mark Ruffalo is a charming man.
Yeah, I love him.
Michael Huber is a charming man. Brandon Jones, what's changed with you, man?
Boy, all sorts of stuff. I think the big thing that I always come back to is when we first started the idea of like, let's do as much as we did at Game Trailers as possible. Let's just completely do the magic trick. It's the same thing. We were like, wait a minute, there's no countdowns and what's happening? And just being like, let's maintain as much as we can. And I'm like, the second we show people this garage, they're going to be tuned out. They're just like, I can't watch these. I'm only watch them on a stage. I want to see them in a garage. And just that change in perspective of what our audience wants us to deliver, what we can do outside of that they'll be into, like exploring things that were not promised via Patreon, that were not a part of GT when that was a thing, just that were completely new Easy Allies creations that our audience was not given any buffer on, we just dropped it on them, like Don showing up and doing his own specials, doing stuff like Hall of Greats, Gundam building, Fiasconauts. It's been really fun to do that stuff, and as time goes on, get more confidence in trying things that are strange and new, and not feeling like we're gonna be abandoned by our audience because they're like, I give you money for a very specific thing, and I don't know what you're doing now, but it's not what I wanted. It was very scary when we first started because I got paid by Viacom for a long time, and then I got paid by Defy Media for a long time, and so it's like, as long as I just keep these people happy, I can keep my job. And the idea now where it's like, no, people are gonna be giving us money directly, just absolutely terrified me. I was like, oh no. And so
it's still terrifying.
It is still terrifying, but I just have a different attitude about it, much more positive attitude, more confidence in striking out and doing the unusual than I did before.
Yeah, it's hard to put in words for me too, but like I was so self-conscious. I'm always self-conscious. Like making my show is like the most stressful thing I do. It's like every single week, it never stops. It's this never-ending thing, week after week after week after week, and like capturing footage for it and just trying to think of ideas. But I don't stress nearly as much as I used to over it because I feel like now I'm speaking to people directly instead of just speaking out into the air. Like there's always going to be haters. I always get those bitter, mean-spirited comments.
Right.
People always will like tweet mean things at me, but it's like I don't make things for them, I guess. I try to just make things for the people that are going to hold on to it and love it. So
absolutely,
if I speak to one person and I make their life better, like that's worth it. So
yeah, I really want to echo that, and I commend you because that is something that I've noticed has changed with me as well. I am also a very deeply self-conscious person, and that can get to a point where like you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to do this thing unless I know it's going to be good and people are going to be like, and people are going to like it, and you just psych yourself out. And I've learned to adopt a process of, even if something is a failure, even if it crashes and burns, like the world doesn't end. It doesn't stop there. It's not over for me. You can still take that and be better the next time. Like, and just because you've had a couple of good things happen doesn't mean they're always going to be good. And just kind of learning to roll with the punches and understand that every single thing can instruct you on how to move forward.
Yeah, it's like this brutal cycle because like you doubt yourself when you put something out there, And then when you read that one negative comment, you're like, I knew this was gonna suck. It sucks.
They're right.
God, they're right. Like, so that's why comments are so brutal and it's so hard, because like when you already are making something and you have that doubt and then you read that, it hurts so much. So I'm not perfect at it, but now, after doing this for a while, it's like, focus on the good comments. Focus on the people that are getting more out of it,
Yeah, and I also think there's a lot of value in that negativity, because it's still an emotional response. I saw this talk recently. If you want to look it up, it's a very good talk. It's by the head designer of Magic the Gathering. And he's like, 20 years of being the head designer of Magic the Gathering, here are 20 points that I learned. And he said when we would solicit feedback from players on cards, he said, is it better to have a sea of sevens or 50-50 have people give something a 1 and then the other half give it a 9? He said, which is better? He said, the second is better, because if you have a sea of sevens, no one really feels anything. Like, it's fine and it's just accepted. It's much better to have some people love it to death and some people hate it because they care about it. Like, you have to care a lot about something to hate it. You have to be invested in it. And
like
so,
Hearthstone.
I think as a human being, it's natural to want to be like, oh, okay, people hate this, it's wrong or it's bad, and that's not necessarily the case. And so learning how to process and evaluate all that stuff is good. And I think allows you to build confidence if you can frame it in the right way. But enough psychotherapy for the day. I'm super excited because I got to spend on Wednesday 3 hours with the new God of War. And, it's funny because I think a lot of people have talked about this game and they're worried that it's going to try to ape The Last of Us, or it's going to lose the identity of God of War, or it's not going to be there in the way that they remember and love. And like Resident Evil 4, for me, this is a game that feels completely different, top to bottom, but understands exactly what God of War is, and that DNA is like pulsing through it the entire time. It is the best of both worlds in a really beautiful way. And it was hard not walking out of that demo being incredibly excited and saying to myself, like, wait a minute, was that just a good demo? Am I overvaluing this? And very immediately thinking to myself, like, no, like, I can think to all of these specific things that point to this being a cool, special game that people should experience, whether they're a fan of God of War or not. And before I go on any farther, I just want to say I'm going to go out of my way to not spoil story elements. And I do want to say a huge reason for that is because there are very exciting things that happen immediately in that game that I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spell that stuff out. I'm going to be talking about tone. I'm going to be talking about mechanics mostly, and things around that, but I will go out of my way to not spoil any specific story stuff whatsoever. However, I know a lot of people are looking forward to it, so if you don't want to hear any more talk about God of War, there are timestamps in the description, and you can skip all of this.
Skip.
Before, Huber skips. Yeah, gets out of here. Before I ramble on any farther, Huber.
Yeah.
God of War means a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big series for you, and you're very much looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
What's kind of your headspace at it right now? What do you want out of it? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for fatherly emotions. I'm looking for the human side of Kratos, He has done a lot of very, very intense things. If you look at God of War 3, that, like, it's almost to the point of being irredeemable, and I want to see how they can make me care about Kratos and, make me invested in his story in a way that I haven't been invested before. Like, I want it to take it to another level. Cool. Because even, like, God of War 3, can we spoil God of War 3? Like, anyway, God of War 3, he does some insane stuff.
I think that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah,
really.
He does some insane stuff. Bloodlust, rage, revenge, So I'm looking for the more
I would argue he also does that in the other God of War.
Of course.
Yeah.
But 3 is like a whole nother level.
Sure.
So,
I know that's fair.
So yeah, I'm looking for human Kratos.
I want to talk about that emotion and that character. But Jones, what does God of War mean to you, and what do you want out of the new one?
I really like God of War. I have not played a lot of those games just because I played 1 and I played 3, and I think I played part of 2.
2 is a very special game to me. I
Yeah.
think 2 is like
2's my favorite.
amazing. I haven't played it in a very long time, but
yeah. it I wouldn't say that they were like samey, because they're, you know, that series has darted around in all sorts of crazy directions, and certainly like made the most of the subject matter in that you know mythology like that it could. But which is never something, was not a series I felt like I would go back to for new experiences. It was like, I think I got my fill of like the stuff I had with God of War. But when I look at the new God of War, the grizzled veteran that wants to put their weapon down or their skill down that is often required in emergency situations that they are extremely good at, but don't necessarily like doing, but they just they either grew up doing this thing or just have this natural innate ability, and then are like dragged in one last time, like Logan, Last of Us, John Wick,
John Marston.
I just love that story. That is an instant win for me.
Unforgiven.
So, like, just this vibe of him, you know, being quiet and like he's a bad teacher and the kid's in a weird position to learn from him, and so they both kind of have to deal with each other and their imperfections, and this crazy dangerous new world. Like when we first saw that trailer and he's like, he's like, this is not a background, he's looking out on this world that you explore. I was like, don't you tease me. Like, don't you dare get my expectations to a place they should not be.
It's so funny that you bring up Logan, because I didn't even think about it, but all of the things that movie does well, from what I've seen of this game so far, the game also does all of those things well. And I think what I get frustrated with is I want series to pivot. I want them to try new things. I want them to grow and expand, but I don't think that can come at the expense of like all logic. Like, if Kratos is going to be more emotional, that's awesome, but you can't have Kratos like giving super long monologues and like getting really in touch with his feelings, because that's not Kratos. You can't have somebody who's had all of this history and ignore that. And that's what's so brilliant about this game, is not only are they in a different place, but the mythology that we're dealing with is entirely different. Like, the factors at play, the characters, everything. You're taking this character that was established here and you're putting him in a brand new world, but you're not forgetting all of the stuff that happened to him. And they've just upped their game in order for that to work. There are moments, there's a lot of quiet in God of War, but they convey so much just by how Kratos is moving around, or the way that his face and his eyes are communicating things. Like, this game is just so beautifully directed, because when they want us to feel something, they call attention to it without the need to be like, hey, this is what Kratos is feeling right now. Even with his son is definitely a lot chattier than Kratos, but the way that they interact makes sense for Kratos. It's not like, oh, okay, because Kratos is a dad now, he's going to be completely different. It's how would we take this character that we already know and have him make sense in that situation? And I think that's so good. The way that Kratos deals with secrets, like what do I tell, what don't I tell, both to you, the player, and to his son, I think is just so remarkable. And it does such a good job of teasing you along, of constantly telling you like, hey, no, we have some bombshells to drop on you, but along the way, we're going to give you scenes with Kratos by himself, with Kratos and his son, that really make you care and make you invested. That 3 hour, like, I love God of War 2. I think God of War 2 is an amazing game, but I think God of War 2 is an amazing game because of how perfectly it captures the idea of spectacle, and how good it is at throwing you into situations that you can't even believe are happening. I think what I've played of God of War is so remarkable because of how much I care about what's happening and how much I want to see it through. Like, I want to know what's going on with Kratos. I need to know. Yeah. And I am amazed, and the quality of the writing and the framing of the story is what's making me care. It's not my attachment. It's not that I've played most of the other games. It is what you are setting up in the scene at this moment. to make it matter. I think that's so cool. But what I also want to talk about is I think a lot of people are worried that this won't feel like a God of War game. I was playing some God of War Ascension last night, and say what you will, but that combat is like pretty interesting. You have to deal with building up a meter, and that unlocks additional moves when you build it up, and you have all these different elements. Like there is a complex action game there, and the new God of War has that complexity. I had the biggest smile on my face the first time I took the axe and knocked somebody up in the air and started doing an air combo, and it's like, no, like this is it, like this is that game, and how smooth it was, and how well it ran, and how many different types of enemies that they threw at you. But it doesn't just feel like God of War Light or God of War dumbed down. Like the way that they use the axe and your son is so cool in the combat mechanics, because I keep bringing up RE4, but it reminded me a lot of RE4, where like, you know what's cool about RE4, and I think why people get so attached to the combat, is because it doesn't like sit there and spell out like, oh man, if you shoot this part of the body, this thing will happen, and put them in this state where you can do this thing. Like there's just sort of natural discovery where they give you enough visual cues.
Those
where you can
headshots,
do things.
the stagger, the roundhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so as everybody knows, in God of War, you can throw this axe. You can throw this axe, and the things that you can do with it, like where you hit them, how you can, so you can like throw it and hit them and it'll fly past them, and then you can recall it and it will hit them on the way back. And so you can set up like really cool situations where it's like, okay, they're all lined up, I'm going to hit them front to back. And also, there are a lot of times where maybe you won't want your axe equipped and you're going to want to use your bare hands because they have a health gauge and a stun gauge, and your bare hands will build up the stun gauge much faster.
Very cool.
And also, your boy, he's going to be having his bow and arrow, and he's going to be shooting, and that builds up the stun gauge. And so if you can fill up their stun gauge, you get the God of War finishing move.
Nice.
And so he's
Can
really...
I rip a dude in half?
Right, exactly. Just ripping a dude in half.
Nice. Great.
That's in there.
Perfect.
That feels really good.
Better be in there. Staple.
And it's... You feel like you have a lot of options immediately, and that all of them feel good. And I played, like I said, about 3 hours. And I would say like every 30 minutes, it felt like there was a big new enemy that I was fighting. And then it's like, okay, we're going to introduce the enemy, and then we're going to put it in this group. And now we're going to put it in this group. And each time it was like, oh, okay, I have to kind of like change what I'm doing here.
That's what's so great about God of War 2 and 3 is the constant new enemies. I love that stuff. Like new enemy variety. Always like kind of a mini boss will come out, like a big troll or a big like Hydra or whatever it may be, Chimera or something. I love that stuff. Were you gaining XP?
I certainly was gaining XP.
Yeah, because they said I remember they said there's no red orbs, but you just gain straight up XP, or
so there are a couple of different systems at play. So you're gaining XP, and you can spend that on different things. You can like put that into your axe and get new stuff there. You can also dump it into the boy and his bow. Yeah, I think you're going to want to use the axe. There's also a crafting system. Cool. So I'm not going to spoil the specifics of it, but after a certain point, you're going to be able to craft. And although there's not red orbs, you're constantly getting this currency that you can dump into those systems.
Cool. I was just commenting on the combat. I really like when you have a big weapon in a game and you can send that weapon out, but still fight while that weapon's not in your hands anymore.
Yes.
Like obviously like Disney Infinity's on a much lower combat tier as far as video games are concerned. But like I loved when I was fighting with Captain America, like throw the shield out and then just keep punching people, and then the shield will come back, and now I'm fighting with the shield again. And like it's fun, like when you throw a lightsaber or what, I just love that idea of like you. And I'm assuming like he just gets in with the fists with combos and stuff like that once he doesn't have the axe. Like, if you throw the axe and it sticks in a wall, he's just going to do fisticuffs until you call that back.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
Did you crush anyone's head?
I don't know if there's definitely a lot of ripping. Ripping and tearing happened a lot. I don't remember crushing going the other way. But there was a lot of violence, so I could be missing some head crushing. I remember ripping.
I can't wait till it comes out and you get the tweet from Huber like, head crushing confirmed. You're like, oh, good. Okay.
Okay, everything's safe. Yeah. But Jones, what you were describing, and I think, like, we talk about God of War spectacle, right? And when I think about the God of War series, the moments that really speak to me are the quick time events. Like, I remember in God of War 2, I will always remember like early on, sticking that dude's head in the door
Yeah.
and just bashing that thing over and over. Or God of War 3, poking out eyes, or all of these moments that are like very set up, and it's like, hey, look at this, wow. In the new God of War, you have crazy moments like that. You do. They happen and they're fun. But what I was getting really excited about is exactly what you were describing, where you'll see a guy on a ledge, be like, I'm going to throw my axe. It goes into his head. This like gushing orange goo shoots out of him. And then you're like, now I'm going to go over here. Son, you shoot him. And your son's like, okay, Dad. And he's shooting him. And you're just beating the ever-loving hell out of him. And those moments are like you're doing them. You feel like you have so much control and all of it is so intuitive and smooth and easy to do. Like, you're going to be able to see like badass YouTube clips of people who do crazy things with that axe, and that is because of how good and how simple they made it to use, and I really commend them for doing that. Like, the combat is fun.
Nice.
For sure. So yeah, I'm really excited about this game.
Hype, dude. Hype.
It's fun to get in the attitude of the gameplay and obviously Kratos' mindset. When you go into a room, there's like the big guy, 2 bigger guys next to him, and then like 6 small guys. And you like take out the big guy, the 2 small guys, and the other 5, and then you're like, is there one? You look over and there's just that skeleton in the corner of the room, like, you're like,
right.
Come here, buddy. Like, I love that vibe of just like, what could I do?
Right.
So many options. Can't make up my mind.
Reminds me of like the Yakuza Heat. Like when you got one guy left, you're like, what? How am I going to use the heat action to mess up this guy? Yeah. The last thing. Well, no, 2 more things. The second to the last thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the puzzle solving, and how impressed I was with it. I don't want to ruin too much, but your axe, when you throw it, it can cause ice comes out of it, and it can cause things to freeze in place. And there are a lot of times with action games, and I even think about the Uncharted series, where a lot of times I feel like the puzzles aren't interesting enough to justify themselves. No. Where it's like, okay, you needed a stopgap here, like you needed a thing to mix it in, but this is either like so tedious that I'm not having any fun, or it's so inconsequential that I feel insulted that you're making me ask this. And it's funny because I was playing God of War Ascension, and I actually think like the heal decay thing in God of War Ascension was handled pretty well. And this actually kind of reminds me of that, where the puzzles that I was doing, it's not that they were hard, but they felt really clever.
Yep.
Where you would kind of go through this process of like, okay, I have all of these things that I can play with. I need to play with that one, see what it does. Okay, now I know what that thing does. I'm going to go play with this thing, see what that thing does. Okay, I know what that thing does. And then once you played with everything, you could kind of piece it together. And that thought of going through the slow process of putting it all together felt really satisfying. It didn't take that long. It wasn't tedious. It was just kind of a nice little like,
You know how I am with puzzles. Yeah. But Resident Evil and God of War undoubtedly are my favorite puzzles in games because, like you said, they're clever, they're complex, but I'm never going to beat my head against the wall trying to figure them out.
Yeah.
I just think it's a great balance of like, slow down the pace a little bit, figure this out, and move on without like having to, move a million things and and crunch some numbers. Or they get the balance down really well.
In a way, it's like another form of exploration. It's kind of the same as like walking to a new room and just exploring that, seeing where the enemies are, or like getting into a big wide open environment and then deciding like, do I want to go to that village or that cave or that, clearing and take out some of those enemies. It's just like the natural discovery. And yeah, I always find it interesting when I finish a puzzle in a game where I'm like, I wouldn't say brain power was required to do that, but I still enjoyed putting that together, like after, the 5-10 minute process of just absorbing all the information, like, oh, that goes there. And okay, moving on. And that felt good. You know, it's like, creating puzzles in games is gotta be hard. It's not something that like I want to do where it's like, oh, I bet that's really easy.
And I think it's interesting because I've played kind of games like God of War, like action exploration games, where you can tell that like they include puzzles, but it's like there are a couple and they're really spaced out. It felt like I was running into puzzles pretty often, but because of how well they were designed and how well they blended in and how they melded with combat, it felt really good. It almost made me like kind of nostalgic like, it reminded me so much of like a Resident Evil 4 or the old God of War games where I'm like, it kind of feels good to play a game like this again that has this sort of balance to it. And that felt really interesting. Because I always hate it in, like, I don't know if you played Frozen Wilds of Horizon.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the puzzles where you have to look down and you have to, like, match the lines up?
Yeah.
I hate puzzles. That sucks
that's
so
not
much.
Exploration. That's trial and error.
Right, exactly.
You know, you're not what they want you to do is step back and be. I mean, like there's some numeric puzzles that are like that where I'm just like, oh, there's 6 numbers, and it's like, oh, there's a combination. Screw this. And I'll just go to the first one and be like, this, no, this, no.
Yes.
That's it. All right, next one. This, no, this. You know. So like what Gorilla wanted you to do is step back and look at all the lasers and go, I think this connects to that one, and if I move that 2 degrees and whatever.
Lasers.
Where
it's awful.
All you're gonna do is just go to each thing you can spin, Huber, and just spin it until it lights up, and then you move on to the next one, and then if that's not doing what you want to do, maybe go back to the one you did before, try the second option instead of the first one, and then go to the second one and shift.
Ian and I say this to each other all the time, where it's a puzzle where you know exactly what to do. It's just a huge pain in the ass doing it. And in God of War, once I knew what to do, it was done. Yeah. And I don't want to like praise the puzzles too much. I don't think it's gonna blow anybody's mind or be extra crazy or anything. But I do appreciate that approach where it's like, okay, you get it, now move on. The very last thing that I want to say, and it's always weird talking about graphics because it can be a tricky thing to articulate without sounding like a total fool. But there are sometimes I think when we play games, I remember playing. Like The Witcher 3 or The Last of Us come to mind, where I saw them and I'm like, are these people wizards? Like, how do they do this? This is like, you're telling me human beings made this world? And everything from the forest that you're in to like the way Kratos gets scratches on his body, the detail in his like gnarly beard, all of it is incredible. Like the way they zoom in, they're like, hey, this looks good, right? And you're just sitting there going to yourself like, yes, show me more. Really, the environments, I think, in particular, are just like, you're going to walk out into some of these scenes and see a huge landscape, and you're going to be like, wow, it is such a joy getting to walk through this. But what always impresses me the most is when they do all this visual wizardry and you don't notice any drops in frame rate. I didn't notice a single drop at all at any moment, no matter how hectic it got. And so that is amazing.
Sounds like it.
That is amazing.
How's that HDR? How's that lighting?
You know, I actually don't know if we were playing in HDR because, like, I didn't check the settings.
I'm sure I had it set up.
Yeah, there was... Yeah.
Well, Kratos looks interesting to me because in some ways you're like, yes, Kratos looks like Kratos, acts like Kratos, sounds like Kratos, the moves and everything. And at the same time, it's like, who is this guy? It is a different looking person,
right?
Purely because of the power of that system,
right.
You know, purely because it's like, no, you can really get crazy skin textures. It's not just like, yeah, he's white and he's got some red lines on him. Now it's like, no, there's actually like he's got like this like makeup, this like thing that's been applied to him that's like on top of his skin that you can see the details of, and kind of the lines that are kind of buried into his wrinkles now, and just fascinating to see him. It's so cool. I mean, it's like I wanted to get the Yakuza treatment where they just go back. It's like, can we just please on the PS4 go back to remake all of those old games, like make them look this good?
It's so funny because I think if you would have talked to me before I had played this new God of War and you were like, what's your opinion on Kratos? I'm like, you know, he's cool. He's a good vessel for that type of game and the grandiose violence it presents. How I feel about him after playing this is like, no, I really like that guy. I think I've always liked him. I think Kratos has always been a pretty awesome protagonist. And so it's like, I feel like it's going and like changing my memories of how I felt about that character.
Like Logan, it's a really smart decision for the next chapter of that character.
Yeah.
It's really, really smart to be like, I'm going to put him in this situation, which is going to let him do a lot of the stuff you know him for, but at the same time is going to present him with a lot of issues and character relationships that you might not be familiar with. And just the fatigue. I just am such a sucker for that. Just him, like, all right, one last time. You know, like, I will never not sign up for stories like that. It's so satisfying.
Especially after God of War 3. It's like, all right, Kratos.
Right.
Time to retire.
Right. Yeah, and kind of speaking with that, I want to bring up Metal Gear Solid really briefly. Because boy, that story really ends in Metal Gear Solid 4, and obviously Metal Gear Solid 5 takes place on the opposite end of the spectrum of that story. Mm-hmm. But the thing that was kind of always nagging me about Metal Gear Solid 5 is like, and really how the Metal Gear Solid series carried itself on after certain points is it felt like it was adding stuff, but it wasn't contributing things, right?
5, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If that makes any sense, where like they're dumping things on, but it's not enriching this world or making it better. It's just more BS. Yeah. And playing God of War Ascension, which I'm enjoying. It's the only God of War game I haven't finished, and I'm enjoying the combat. I'm enjoying the puzzle solving. I'm like enjoying the design, but there's like almost no soul there. Like his fight against the Furies feels very thinly justified. Like you're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. Do you worry? It's a long-winded question, but do you worry that God of War might be biting off more than they could chew, or that it won't contribute to this character or this world, or go in the wrong direction?
No, this is a game with a vision. This is a game with something to say. Cory Barlog has talked about him being a dad, and there's some of that in God of War. Clearly, Ascension was felt like a business decision in a way. I don't want to speak for an entire company, but
of course
it did feel like
and
that.
A smart one.
Prequel.
Make as many of those as you can.
Exactly.
Go nuts.
We need another one. Let's have a prequel. Let's maybe add some multiplayer, and because they added multiplayer in Ascension, which was actually pretty cool. But no, this is a game.
You had lots of games like Dante's Inferno and other that were just copying the whole format. So it's like, I mean, if people want these types of games,
I kind of want to revisit Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
It's like occupying that interesting space where it's like, how was that really?
I would love a remaster of that.
Yeah?
I would definitely
I enjoyed
go
it, but for the same reasons I probably would have enjoyed Ascension if I'd played it, because it's just a fun game. It's just fun to,
Oh, I'd really love to get your take on God of War 2, though.
Sure.
I would.
Put it on the best.
I feel like we were interrupting you.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a reinvention, They clearly have more to tell for this character.
I get worried anytime a game or any property is like, this is going to be about being a dad. Because, and I think the reason for that is I worry that sometimes, like, I think having a child, I'm speaking from ignorance here, but I think having a child is a life-changing experience. It's one of the biggest, if not like the biggest thing that can happen to you in your life, being a parent. And I worry sometimes that it moves you so much that you're like, oh man, I need to tell people like how crazy this is. And I think to the audience sometimes it's like, no, I know that like being a parent is tough and it's going to be trying. And so I think I worry that people are going to like beat you over the head with it and not treat the relationship between the parent and the child like they don't treat them like human beings. They treat them like a message. And that's what I like about God of War so much is like there are very clearly individual characters there. Like you take the son away from Kratos, he's still got things going on with him. Like he's still an interesting little kid that is trying to work through some things. You take Kratos and he's got some secrets that he hasn't told you that he's working through. And so there's still characters underneath that relationship. And I think that is
nice. I don't know why this just popped in my head because I just watched it on Netflix, but just saw Godfather, and it kind of like reminds me a little bit in that he's like doesn't want Michael in the family. He's like, no, right. Michael's just got out of. He's a war hero. We're doing fine. Business is great. We do not need his help. Like I do not want him involved. And like I'm hoping for a little bit of that of like. I'm going to teach you these things, son, because you need to know them. Like, this is a dangerous world and you need to defend yourself. But, like, I don't want you to turn into me at the same time. Like, I don't want this to jeopardize your values. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to look at me as a role model, and, like, I'm curious if that stuff comes up.
Yeah.
To me, one of the biggest signs with this game is just the title. Like, when that came up, just God of War, I was like, oh, here we go. Yes. Oh, it's called that, is it?
I was really looking forward to this game before it was coming out because I do like the God of War series so much. But it was like, I think there are a lot of games that are like I inevitably anticipate where it's like, oh, like a new one of those, sweet. Now this just feels so fresh and exciting that I am anticipating on a whole different level of curiosity.
I think for a lot of people, it's just predictably amazing. like God of War is going to be awesome.
I think it's going to surprise people the ways in which it is amazing.
Though. For sure. But like for people that are removed from it, that are not like analyzing all the changes, just like, oh, another God of War. Oh, it's big budget. Oh, it looks great. Like that can be boring in a way, just like, oh, another Mario game, like another Zelda game, like it's gonna be great.
Sometimes
I think that can be boring for people. So there's like they're removed from the hype.
Yeah, there's definitely a contingency of people out there, and you saw this with Breath of the Wild, and there were a lot of people that had really valid and interesting arguments about things they didn't like about Breath of the Wild. And then there were people that were like, you only care about this because it's Zelda, and it's like, well, no, we care about it for all of these reasons that are underneath it that we're trying to explain to the best of our ability. And it's just like, sometimes I feel like with that crowd, it's like, do you enjoy anything? Like, do you just get your jollies off being like, well, this is big and successful, therefore
it's not
I'm
good.
going to bend reality to tell you why you can't like it. I don't know. It's weird. It's like it's
just
not
when
a fight
things
worth
are
having.
super popular.
But but honestly, for me, God of War is not like the number one game I want to get to this year. Like I will hopefully play it before the end of the year if it's a GOTY contender. But but I want God of War to be good probably more than I want any other game to be good this year. I'm really anticipating Spider-Man and Red Dead. I think they're going to be good. But with this, just like, please be good. Please don't let there be some stupid thing that holds this game back.
And I can't wait until like God of War comes out, and then there's just like some dumb thing like 75% of the way through that ruins the game.
No.
Who knows?
He's like, winds up in New York. What? Like, no.
Dracula?
Lightning shows up. That would be.
Oh yeah,
that would be awesome. I'm sorry.
You're on board.
Yo, if Dracula shows up,
not ruined for you.
Yeah.
Not ruined for you.
If Dracula shows up, I'm in.
The last thing that I want to say, really quick, is I want to give a special shout out to the voice acting, particularly with Kratos, but also with the son, and also with other characters that he meets. They just chew up every scene that they're in. Like, I find myself increasingly, as I'm playing games, like really wanting to pay attention and hearing people talk, and then like kind of drifting away because it's like, oh my God, like the way that this is written, like you're just repeating the same thing, or you're not really getting to the point, or you're not really capitalizing the emotion of this thing. Not a problem in God of War. Like, riveted because of how like they became those characters. And I am not a voice acting expert, but I do appreciate excellent voice acting, and this was above and beyond.
That's excellent, because different voice actor, obviously, for Kratos, which just happened with Life is Strange Before the Storm, new voice actors, but give them a chance, you know? It's worrying, and obviously, I'm a loyal person. I love when people continue to play roles throughout their career, but you know, people move on to different projects and unknown factors happen. Yeah. So don't condemn, you know, a performance just because the actor is different. Like, give it a fair shake.
From what I've seen, or from what I've heard so far, Kratos does an excellent job. Cool. An excellent job.
Excellent.
We're going to move on to the other end of the spectrum.
Excellent.
Brandon,
so ready, dude. 1 month, God of War. Let's go.
Tell me about a game that is so near and dear to your heart that you are playing.
Talk about moving to the next timestamp.
Yeah.
Well, along the lines
That's what we're doing.
Along the lines of intense bloodletting mythology, I've been playing lots of Dragon Quest Builders.
Yeah.
So an absolutely magical thing happened that outside of Builders is pretty unusual in my life. I'm going through a very interesting period with my marriage where I played Dragon Quest Builders on the PlayStation 4 and occasionally would pull Amanda aside and go, Amanda, look at this thing that I built. Look at this little area. This little joke happened. This one little character is so cute. You know, chapter 2 is all about like disease and you know, triage and the battle against like the forces of nature that, you know, try to get in and poison people and kill them, and I was just like, there's lots of just different layers to this, and I get the kind pat on the shoulder from the spouse. All right, that's nice, honey. Enjoy that game. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And she's seen so much of it, and then it comes out on Switch, and I play the entire thing again, showing her multiple parts of it, and then finally, when I'm ready to like put the game back on the shelf and move on to something else, I'm like, let me stream this, and I'll show it off to everybody. And she sneaks into the end of the stream, and completely unprovoked, just watching me the last 20 minutes of the stream is like, I think I want to play this. And I was like, wait, what? Why, out of all the conversations we've had, of all the times I showed you various elements of this game, this was it. This was finally the thing. And I was like, okay, she's going to get it, and she's going to play a little bit of it, but it's just not going to be her cup of tea. I mean, she does not have my job. She does not have a ton of times to play games. She feels very guilty when, she got sick right after she got the game, and so she had a whole weekend where she was like, bedridden with a cold. And she was like, oh, well, I guess I just play Builders all day. And she's still going at it. She's in chapter 3, and yeah, I think she's definitely going to see it all the way to the end. But it's been fascinating because I like a lot of creative games. I like your Little Big Planets, your Fortnites where you're doing building up walls and staircases and stuff. Builders, obviously Dreams coming out later this year, and Disney Infinity. And so I enjoy that part of it, and I really enjoy the lore part. I think the number one thing about Builders that's so attractive to me is the fact that someone moves into your town with a distinct personality who then is actively going to bed, getting up, going into that store, making items, going over there, eating food. Like, they're living in this world. And it's like the first game where it's like, I have someone, since The Sims, where like, I have someone moving in.
Sometimes that intent is, I think, accidentally humorous, where like, there have been moments where I'm like trying to craft something or like move around a room, and they're like, get out of the way, man. Like, I got a job to do here. And they'll just like beeline it and start hammering away. I think is cute.
Well, like there was, and going through and playing it a second time on Switch, there's one chapter where there's a woman who lives in your town that's kind of creeped out by another guy that's there, and so I intentionally put their rooms at complete opposite ends of the base. But it made me realize that, like, I don't know if this is true about all games that have a building component, but certainly with Builders, when you're going out in the world and you're getting these elements, like you find a building and you're like, oh, that's a neat house that guy lives in, and you just level it and just take all the bathrooms and the stairs and all the materials and stuff. It's a game where you get to decide, of all the things that you're sifting through, what has value to you. It's like you defeated a golem. He dropped a table. Do you care? Like, is that a cool table? You want to put that somewhere? You don't have to. It's like you can just throw that in your inventory and just move on with the game. There's a challenge for beating the first chapter in like 4 days or something, which means like you can't build anything. Like you literally, like no one gets a room. Like no one sleeps.
Yeah.
Like they don't even set up fortifications. Just like run through that whole thing, thus completely shifting your priorities. And so it's interesting to see Amanda putting way more emphasis on something that I did not care about, and then putting way less emphasis on something that I care deeply about, which is like giving each member that comes into my town their own room. Amanda could not care less about. Like,
so
I was telling Ben before we came here, like she has a room in her base right now that looks like an earthquake, like disaster shelter. That's just cots all on the ground. And she's just like, there, sleeping there. And like her room's like candelabras and the carpet.
As somebody who's played through Dragon Quest Builders now multiple times and has done everything in it, is it hard watching her go through the learning process? Do you want to like, are you trying to find ways to help out?
It's mostly
not overbearing,
satisfying. Like most of the time I can kind of kick back and watch, but yeah. Like, and it's funny because Amanda's like very particular sometimes about like cleanliness, about like, no, I want this counter to be cleared. She's funny about like when we eat dinner, she doesn't want phones on the table. Like, I don't want your iPad on the table.
For a second, I couldn't tell if you were talking about Dragon Quest Builders.
No, yeah. This is real life. Okay. But then she gets into the game and she'll, one thing that she does that was fascinating that I didn't do a lot was the spin attack when you're resource gathering. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be kind of a fun thing to do in Minecraft, to just like hold up a charge attack and then spin around and like 2 blocks around me in a circle will just all be destroyed.
Good way to farm for rupees.
And and so she'll do that, but then that produces a lot of these little articles, kind of similar to Minecraft, how it's like the old Doom 2D image that like rotates as you look at it.
Right.
And she'll collect like half of it and then just walk away. And I'm like, there's a pile of so like I'll be watching her and she'll like be heading out into the world, and on the horizon all I can see are just little bits of dirt and like chalk and like all these piles of crap that she's just like, I don't have room in my inventory. You get as you're familiar with, Ben, you get an item called the Colossal Coffer. That's cool because Minecraft doesn't have this, where like if you fill up your inventory and you can't hold that on yourself, it'll just throw it back to your base, which doesn't make any sense logistically, but is very appreciated in a game like that. And her inventory fills up within hours. Just boom. Like, and she's like, oh, what do I do? And I'm like, you build a chest in your base and you put stuff in it. Like you organize just for 60 seconds your inventory. And so like she'll be playing and then she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And she's like, organize my crap. And just get the controller and like leave. And I'm like, all right. And like in the 5 minutes I have, I'll just run around like, these items. The ore goes in here, the food goes in here.
And that helps your sanity.
And that helps my sanity, yeah. But it's to me adds even more value to that game to see somebody experience that beat by beat that's playing the game very differently than I am, still doing the same things, to be like, oh, you're gonna like that character, that's a fun story beat, and then later I'm like, what'd you think? And she's like, meh. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I thought that was hilarious, but I get, So it's a gift, and I bring that up not only just because of Builders and how obsessed I am with that game, but to have played this game twice and then have my spouse play it and then be as into it as she is now and then experience it through her eyes is I don't know what I did to deserve it. It's wonderful.
It's so funny,
especially with 2 coming out with co-op soon.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, she could not be more excited for that.
I'm very excited for your marriage when that comes out. It's so funny that you say that because...
Would you build that there?
Abby and I are playing through Metal Gear Solid right now, which is the most important game to me ever. And we've tried to play it a couple times before, and we were going to play it again, and she was kind of nervous, and I was like, why are you nervous? And she's like, well, I could just tell that, like, when things are happening, you'll, like, give me this look, like, trying to read how I feel, and, like, I can just tell it means a lot to you, so I don't want to... Right, the pressure. And so I don't want to disappoint you, basically. And it, it's made me realize, not just with this, but with other things, with TV shows and movies and stuff, where it's like, regardless of how you feel about it, you just gotta chill out. You just gotta like appreciate that they're experiencing it with you. Like whatever they take from it or don't take from it, it's totally fine. And that can be hard. That can be hard when something means a lot to you.
Oh man, is there anything worse than like you're at a party with a bunch of friends and they're like, what movie are we going to watch? And you're like, oh, let's watch this movie I really care about. And they're all just talking through it and talking over it. You're like, oh yeah, this the bill. What did he say? Wait, rewind that scene. I wasn't watching. And you're like, you weren't. You weren't watching.
Like with Aliens and stuff, the only way I'll let people watch, like people that haven't seen it, all the lights off, headphones on, no talking.
I remember I had one friend I think it was in college, might have been after I graduated, that hadn't seen Aliens. Yeah. And they had like an evening. And I was like, all right. And I'm like, you haven't seen any of it? And I'm like, okay, we don't have time to watch Alien, but you have to watch the last 15 minutes of Alien. And then so made them watch that and then made them watch Aliens. Yeah, with horror, it's the worst when people are just like not tuned into the tone of it at all. Yeah. And that's kind of nice that Builders is like has some really interesting narrative stuff actually, despite its like extremely cartoony, childlike appearance and style. Has some depth there and some pretty heavy tones. It's not there's not like story beats. I'm waiting to like really see how it impacts Amanda. But it's just been a very unique experience. I've seen her play a lot of games. She played Breath of the Wild all the way through. That was fun. Played it very differently than me. She's just getting through Odyssey, right now.
Getting a lot of mileage out of that Switch.
We played Super Mario 3D World together, so like...
What about like Kirby? Is that something you guys would play together or not?
Yeah, but we would do that at the same time, whereas this is just like... She's funny. Like, she'll be playing, and she's like, you've been sitting next to me for like an hour watching me play this. Do you have anything to do? And I'm like, I should, but it's just fun to watch you do it. It's fun to see, because you get that base. You just get this blank canvas to do whatever you want, and so it's really interesting. She did something with her base this time where, like, her whole base is a staircase. So you, like, walk into the front entrance, and, like, every room is on, like, a new level, and then there's, like, another level that has a whole different type of floor, and then another level, whole different type of floor. And I was like, that's really clever. Never thought about that. Like I do the classic first floor side. Mine's all my bases look like a hotel. There's like those like cheap motels you drive by, where it's just like lots of rooms in a row, staircase goes up to the second level, door.
I bet if there was a like best towns competition for Dragon Quest Builders, I think you would place.
I would be so nervous preparing for that. I would lose sleep.
You would lose your mind. It'd be, you're right. It would be a burden to you.
I'd call you at 3 in the morning. Just like, can you download it real quick and just let me know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where to put this flower pot, man.
Hubert, there are a few games. Well, there are a handful of games that light you up in pretty dramatic ways, and Dragon Quest VIII is one of those games.
Yeah.
But Builders is not something that you've really clicked with. Mm-hmm. Or gravitated to, may be a better way to say it. Why is that?
It came out at a bad time for me last year, I remember. I started it on PS4 and put some time into it, and then by no fault of the game whatsoever, I was having a blast. Even, like I love building towns; it's one of my favorite things.
Right.
life happened.
Life happened. That's it. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah. And then I got pretty far into Act 1 or Chapter 1, and then so much time had passed. It was like, now so much time has passed. Like, do I go back and start over? That whole, debate in my head. So then just more time passed, and I was like, all right, I'm probably not going to get back to this. And then 2 got announced. So it's like, okay, at this point, I'm just going to wait for 2, try again.
See, that's funny because I feel like I've entered this space with Dragon Quest Builders, and maybe this would help you. Where like I'm totally okay never finishing Builders. Like it's not about that for me. Like Builders is just something where it's like I want to hop in, maybe clear some things off a list.
I think that's why I'm gonna totally easily just no even question hop into 2. Usually I want to like beat the first one and then hop in, catch up. It's like no, I'm just gonna hop into 2 and see what happens.
Yeah.
So.
What's neat is it's the worlds are randomly generated, but not like there's specific spots where like this castle will always be right here.
Yeah.
But the mountain you got to cross to get there might look a little different for everyone's game. And so it's like the best of both worlds. That Minecraft, like what's in that cave? But like the same time where it's like there are times in Minecraft where I would just go off in a direction and it'd be forest for days. And I'm like, okay, I just wasted an hour. It's like you're not gonna waste any time exploring that game because they very carefully designed the layout.
It's gotten to the point where I feel like now I see the Dragon Quest Builders hero and like I see you somehow.
Yeah.
Like,
well, but that's another thing that's great was Amanda played a female character. So the first time she like went to like a block and was like, yeah. I was like, oh, like I've never heard that voice before. Cool. Of all the hours I put into this game, it's something new. Thanks, hon.
This is like the gift that keeps on giving to me in ways that I never thought possible. Oh, Hubert, you bring very interesting stuff to Frame Trap.
Yeah, really quickly, I really just want to give one brief shout out to Fortnite. Fortnite fever. I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to say that thank you, Fortnite. Thank you so much. My brother has been extremely sick for the last many, many months, and Fortnite now is a place that we can hop in and stay occupied and just team up together in duos and have a blast. So I wanted to tell a quick story with my bro. I'm teaching him the game. I'm teaching him Fortnite, and my brother and I used to play a ton of Counter-Strike back in the day. That was like our biggest jam was CS. So I'm like, yo, you should get Fortnite. Like, it's free to play, blah, blah, blah. So we land in a spot, and I'm like teaching him. There's like no one around. It's perfect. I'm like showing him how to build a little bit, like throwing all this information at him. So then we get to like Dusty Depot, and I'm like with my brother. It's first match. He's never played. And I'm like with my brother, and he's like, yo, be quiet for a sec. And we're like, stop. He's like, behind us. We both turn around. These 2 guys are like coming up the ramp on Dusty Depot, and my brother and I are just like opening fire, like tish, 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 tish. Drop both of the guys, dude. We both just like scream. We're just like, yeah! Like we each got a kill, so it was just perfect.
That is awesome.
Such good times. So now he's like so into Fortnite. He bought some items on the shop. He bought the battle pass. So it's like my brother and I are just
I'm a little bit worried because I feel like having one Huber be obsessed about something is a danger. Having 2 Hubers be obsessed about something, like the world may not be ready.
Yeah, so that's all.
You just made me think of though, like I love it when, because there are a lot of years that are associated with games for me, but I love it when games are associated with people.
Yeah.
And like I can't enjoy the thing without thinking of the person, or I need the person there. Like you brought up Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
And I played so much Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source in high school. I just played it all the time. And like anytime I think about playing Counter-Strike now, it's like I played that with my friends back then.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, and like
because
that period of my life
there,
is gone. Like
totally.
I'm never gonna get that back. Like it's like
Jones
this
with WoW.
bittersweet.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Just
WoW
with
is kind of a good
certain
example.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And it's weird because I think you always have in the back of your mind, like, I'm never going to be able to enjoy this that way then, but you're also, like, extremely grateful that you had that experience. And I feel like this is Fortnite with you and your brother now. Like,
absolutely.
You guys are always going to have this, and that's cool.
It is.
We had a rogue named Romance who died a lot. Romance is dead. That joke just never got old.
Wait, what?
We had a rogue named Romance who's a risk taker.
I thought you said we had a road. I was just trying to. Was this like a?
And I love just you couldn't not every time just like in chat Romance.
You guys were you were Alliance, right, Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I wonder if we had any scrapes.
I really wish.
That'd be great. You never know.
I could have met Jones during like the height of his WoW days, because man, I will never forget. Like, I've told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. When I was an intern, and like I was like, man, I don't know if like Jones likes me or likes anybody, because he just kind of like goes back to his office and he seems really intense. And I remember going in and getting you to talk about World of Warcraft, and you like told me about your character and everything, and you lit up and you were so excited. It was the very first time I'd ever seen you like that.
It was probably the figure, right? That might have spawned
It was the figure. It was the figure that you were talking about. Yep, you had this figure of your character to explain for the listeners at home. And just the way that you talk about it, I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But I also thought to myself, like, man, he must have had days where he was playing for like 12 hours at least.
Yeah.
Like, just sitting there with like food. Like, oh, I want to meet that Jones. That seems really funny to me. But, Huber.
Yes.
Moving on.
Yes.
You got something I want to talk about.
Yes.
You've been playing Devil May Cry 1.
Yeah.
HD.
Yeah.
PS4 edition.
I'm so glad you brought up God of War to start with, because 15 minutes into Devil May Cry, the first thought I had was, wow, storytelling has come really far in games.
Even using the word story is a little...
Like,
yeah.
You know, it's perspective. It's like... How long have stories been really good in games? You know what I mean? And of course I go back, but of course I go back to like JRPGs, which kind of had an advantage in storytelling in the early days, because you had so much time and so much text and so much dialogue and
it's
and
funny
moments.
Because growing up, I remember the conversation always being like, if you want a story, go play the RPGs.
Yeah.
And that's so funny to me now, because it was like this separation of, these guys are trying, these guys aren't. And so we're going to give a bunch of credit to the guys that are trying. Like, it wasn't even that, like, the stories were amazing.
Like the only place.
They just seemed amazing because they were the only ones that were going to that level of depth.
Funny.
In Devil May Cry 2, like, a woman shows up and, like, tells Dante to go kill somebody, and he's like, all right. And, like, that's the plot.
Yeah. They don't get a lot more complicated.
No.
So,
but that's fine, because you get to cut up and shoot demons.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry 1 is my favorite vibe, my favorite tone, my favorite aesthetic from all of the Devil May Cries. Exactly. And it's really funny you bring that up too, because I'm really, really seeing the Resident Evil in Devil May Cry 1.
Sure.
It smacks you in the face.
Way more than I ever remember.
Yeah.
Just from, I love the simple satisfaction of just seeing a painting on the wall and examining it, and you get a little bit of a lore. Like, there's a picture of an angel and demon, and the angel flew, like, just, little things like that, like Resident Evil style. But wow, Devil May Cry 1 is a lot more basic than I remember.
Yeah.
The combat, at least, there's not a lot of combos. Getting S rank isn't a matter of variety, really. It is. You can't just spam the same thing, but it's not so much about variety as it is continuously hitting the enemies.
Yeah, and you don't have nearly the amount of tools that you do in the later games. I remember playing it on PS3. Mm-hmm. I felt the same thing, but then you have like that follow-up thought where you're like, oh no, wait, this was the one that started everything.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to wrap your mind around that sort of appreciation of how monumental this was.
Yeah,
for sure.
So my headspace is just, I'm in a really unique spot with it right now. I haven't played it in so long. I can't even remember the last time I played through Devil May Cry 1. It was definitely on PS2, so it's a very long time ago. So I'm coming at it from such a unbiased, not nostalgic, just fresh, open mind. And kind of analyzing it and seeing just the how far storytelling has come and just modern game conveniences. Like, this is a stressful game just because I feel like games used to be more stressful. Like, gotta find my safe spot. I can't really cheese it in a way. I guess, you take a lot of damage when you get hit, like you're getting ranked, and I feel like, I'm going through levels slowly, so I kept getting like C rank or B rank, and I'm not getting enough orbs, and I'm freaking out. It's like, well, I'm not getting enough orbs, I'm not gonna have enough health later on, like am I backing myself into a corner, like just all these worries that I have, and like getting to a boss fight and dying, and it's like, oh no, I gotta do that again, am I gonna beat this? Like all that doubt I have, it's a little bit stressful, but then I beat a boss and it's like so rewarding, so I love that feeling.
Something you said there particularly got to me, where like taking a hit really matters.
Yeah.
There are so many games now where you have a billion different ways to just deal with even the slightest bit of damage, that the threat of death seems so distant because you have so many items, or you're regenerating, or like you have so many skills, where it's like Devil May Cry 1, like, oh no, like that is a punishment for not learning how to deal with this guy.
You better dodge.
Yeah, and that's really good.
Also,
interesting you brought up Resident Evil, because it was originally Resident Evil.
Yeah.
It was like in the very, very early conceptual stages.
Yep. Seeing that shades of Kamiya. He did it right after Resident Evil 2, right? Resident Evil 2 and then Devil May Cry. Kamiya?
Yeah?
Yep.
I want to say yeah.
Yep.
I want to say yeah.
We got 3 on PS1, and
he
then,
didn't do
but I'm just in the timeline of
Yeah.
Resident Evil. I think it was 4 was like when they'd finished up Code Veronica, and we're like, all right, what's next? Like they were like, well, we have this other weird like gothic concept thing we're doing. Should that be 4? And it was like, no, we'll make that its own thing. I believe.
Yeah.
Huber, you were saying how much things have evolved, and you were talking about the challenge and the sense of reward.
Yeah.
Is there anything that is surprising you that like is still super good about Devil May Cry 1 that you miss beyond just the vibe? Like mechanically, presentation-wise, boss fight-wise.
I mean, one of the most satisfying things in gaming is launching a puppet into the air and shooting them continuously with ebony and ivory.
Yeah.
That is still as good as you remember.
Yeah. Oh boy,
like
you stirred something inside of me.
That feeling is the best.
Yeah.
And the way he like hops around with ebony and ivory is still so good.
And you were talking about the storytelling, and you're like, man, we've really come a long way.
Yeah.
But what makes Devil May Cry work, and not just Devil May Cry, but like God Hand and Bayonetta and all of these games that are just so outlandish and ridiculous, is in Devil May Cry, it felt like the people making it believed so hard that this was cool that there was no doubt in their mind that this was the most badass thing ever conceived. And that like sincerity that you can just sense allows you to buy into it, and suddenly something if it didn't have that level of sincerity, it would just be super lame. You're like, no, this is amazing. This is so much fun. Like Dante is actually as cool as you make him out to be.
Like the coolest person ever.
Because you believe in him so hard, I now also believe in him so hard.
It's funny how I'm seeing the Matrix inspiration. Matrix came out in 99. I think Devil May Cry was 2000 or 2001.
Influenced everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's got double pistols. Trish comes in, like, Trinity style, on the motorcycle, like, very Matrixy in that sense, which I thought was pretty funny. And a lot of, like, Castlevania in there. Like, just that giant castle. Again, the aesthetic and the tone of 1 is my favorite.
Easy Allies likes gothic horror, I think.
Absolutely. And fixed camera. Which was upsetting for a lot of people, but like made that game like creepy in a weird way, because sometimes you'd walk into a room and like, and I'm like, what am I fighting? And then it would just come creeping in.
Those like Grim Reaper
I walked past it, and then it's behind me, or like those moments where you like run down a hallway to get away from enemies and then spin around and start shooting at them, and you're just shooting at the camera, and it's like, I know the thing is behind the camera, I can't see it. And like that could be very frustrating for the modern gamer, but like at the time it was spooky. In the same way of Resident Evil shooting off screen, just being like, I know there's a hunter there. Like fun.
Also, the shotgun is still amazing.
Brandon, as somebody who was a very huge fan of Resident Evil growing up, and at the time, I guess, how did Devil May Cry hit you? Like, how did that type of game hit you when you first encountered it? Did you like kind of gravitate to it right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got DMC 1 at launch, played it, didn't finish it. Because I think it was just hard. I had not played a lot of. I didn't grow up with. I enjoyed Final Fight on the Super Nintendo and stuff. But I think you played a lot of brawlers.
Yeah.
So you were really, and I didn't play a lot of fighting games. So that kind of like give and take, where you're just like they attack, I attack, they attack. I did not train myself enough on that as a kid.
Did that like bum you out? Did it like ruin the game a little bit for you? Or was it just like
that game had style to spare, and so I just I got my fill from what I did. I think I even at a later date might have gone back and started over and still didn't finish it. Played DMC 2 all the way through because it's easy.
I can't wait to revisit
Devil May Cry 2 is it's just a gratuitous, just kill fest the whole time. And so I finished that. It was like, that was great. Like, it's funny looking back. We were like, that game was abysmal. And I was like, oh, I guess I liked it because it was dumbed down for me. And then I think I was just intimidated with DMC 3. I was like, I'm probably really bad at that game.
Can't wait to go to that one too. I don't
respect it a lot because it was a pretty looking game.
I don't want to start a war, but seriously, all I ask is that people give DMC a chance. That's all I want. Especially now going back to 1, like the combat in DMC is so good. And maybe now because of Annihilation and Ex Machina giving even more credibility to Alex Garland. Alex Garland wrote DMC. It's the guy who did Dread, Annihilation, and what did I just say before that? Ex Machina. So like people criticize Dante and the story, and it's like, no, give it a chance. This is a critically acclaimed screenwriter who does like the best movies ever. He's 3 for 3. So just give DMC a chance. I know it's a different Dante, but still, the combat is amazing in that game. I love it. Like
I don't think it's amazing.
Oh my god, like the weapon switching is my favorite thing in that game. Switching to the axe and like
it's really flashy and fun.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. It's totally flashy and fun, and I think like. I like DMC. I think it's a cool game. Yeah. What DMC sold me on is how it presented everything. Like I remember fighting like those bosses or just going through the environment and the way like levels would piece together or like
that
how the environment would be
presented.
Is
so legendary.
Or the way the enemies would look. Like just visually it was so cool. I liked the vibe of it a lot. But I remember as visually impressed as I was with so many of the bosses, like I pretty much slept through them. Like I think about DMC 3 or DMC 4.
The girl in the club, that one's so good when she's like the DJ oh my god, the rhythm of that fight.
I'd have to do it again.
Yeah,
I'd have to do it again. But the general sense that I get comparing it to like 1, 3, and 4 and DMC is that I just didn't feel pushed in the way that I felt pushed in those games where like there are some bosses in DMC 3 going through it where I'm like, this is nail biting
for sure,
and literally exhilarating.
And I think
because of how much I have to push myself in order to overcome.
But how much of that is just modern games versus like a PS3 game versus a PS2 game?
Sure,
or like the way the series kind of went. Like
I mean, you can say that and you can take age into consideration, but like. If we're taking, then I want more of the former, not the latter. You know, like when they
do DMC 5, let's make it challenging.
Right,
again,
like I want that sense. I really want to be pushed.
True.
In the way.
Great perspective, Ben. Thank you. Yeah.
DMC, but
so that's,
no,
yeah,
I think it's
because I totally get that when people if someone came to me and said, "Yo, DMC is just too easy."
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
fair enough.
And you always doubt yourself because you want to be the guy that's like, well, it's too easy because. I'm not gonna call him out. It's fine. You don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, it's too easy, and then you go and you play it and you can't do the thing that you claimed you could. So it's just a general sense. It's been a long time for me in DMC, but I do get frustrated like you do when people dismiss it just because it is different.
Yeah.
Like that's not an interesting argument. Like, tell me why it's worse or better or whatever it is. Make an argument. I don't know.
Love that game.
Devil May Cry.
So yeah, I'm gonna finish 1, and then I'm really, really eager to see if 2 is as bad as they say it is, and I'm really eager to get back to 3 because that is usually heralded as the best in the series.
I've seen
and 3 is amazing.
I've seen some Devil May Cry 2 defenders come out of the woodwork being like, I love Devil May Cry 2, and that just shows to show you like somebody out there loves something.
Yep.
And I played it recently, like not that long ago.
Yeah.
Within the last year, And I was like, no, this is still awful. This is a abhorrent sequel to Devil May Cry.
Bad camera in that game.
Bad everything.
Yeah.
I just remember running on the walls. That's all I remember from Devil May Cry 2.
Dante
like,
looks
side
really
run
awesome in Devil May Cry 2.
Yeah, the loading screen, it shows all three
that.
Dantes,
Yeah.
and Devil May Cry 2 looks sick.
Yeah.
Because that's the end of the timeline, too. I remember it's 3, 4, 1, 2, I think is the timeline.
Whoa.
Isn't it 3?
If I'm not mistaken.
Isn't it 3,
3, 1, 4, 2? Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I know it's weird like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Anyway.
3, 1, 4, 2. Yeah.
Please, if you come back and you're like,
Devil
May Cry 2 is awesome, I'll just, like, I don't know. Then I'll be like, well, I guess I gotta go and really play through it. Yeah.
HD really brings it out.
Yeah, I
Shows it for what it's
remember
worth.
finishing it the first time and I was like, that was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And they're short, which is nice. Like Devil May Cry 1 and 2 are both like 5 hours, so it's like nice and easy to get through.
I want to talk about a game that I was really looking forward to and feel just okay about. Played through it recently. Finished it off, and that is Attack on Titan 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
The first one, though.
That
So
first
good.
one. Well,
The second one, so many possibilities.
right, exactly. I think that's kind of where I was with the first one, where there were things about the first one that I really didn't like, but the potential was just so good. And you're like, wait, no. But you bring up Spider-Man 2 all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk about how much you love swinging through the city, man, and how good that feels. I really would like you to play Attack on Titan because I think you'll get that. It feels so good using this vertical maneuvering gear and zipping around. And it feels even better. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what they did, but just moving around feels a little bit smoother. I could kind of manipulate myself around these giant titans and zipping like, when you're on the ground and you shoot your gear into 2 buildings and you slingshot yourself up and you're soaring through the sky over all of these buildings, it feels incredible.
I love there's just like a swing to it. Like there's like a little pelvic. You know?
Yeah.
Shoot it out.
Yep. Good.
Do you create a character in this?
You do create a character in that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. So in the first one, you were playing primarily as Eren Yeager, and
Nice.
you were going through his story. What's weird about Attack on Titan 2, so you make a character, and they give you a lot of options, which is nice, and they throw in some... In the characters thing, they throw in like a couple of references. They're like, oh, okay, good job. But I think what I'm disappointed in with the create a character is they give you your own backstory, and it's like, wow, my backstory is like identical to Eren Yeager's. And then you go through the same events that you went through in Attack on Titan 1, but it's like your character is there now.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating is I think that's fine if we have this cool kind of what-if scenario.
So it's not a sequel, it's a what-if scenario.
It's a what-if scenario, but it's a what-if scenario that barely has any if to it. It's like you are going through the story that you've already been through maybe multiple times like I have at this point, and they basically just presented everything as is, and your character is there, and they might be like, wow, you're really strong, but it almost never feels more dramatic in that. Like there's no playfulness to it, and so it's like the same story with your character kind of just barely grafted on, rather than like, oh no, here's this new member of the Survey Corps that's interacting with all these important people in the series that you care about. Like it pretty much doesn't matter that your character is there, which sucks. And the way that they reference it, like they will have really lengthy scenes where it's like, nope, this is just how I remember it. And then at the end they're like, oh, hey, you're here. Like, come on, like give me something.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're going to go out of your way to make a character and put them in the story, you could have done a lot more.
Was the audience screaming for character creation for the second one?
I don't think they were. I don't
What
recall
a weird
any
inclusion.
screams.
If it ain't broke, why fix it like that? That's weird.
Yeah, it's so strange because like they don't have an abundance of material to work with. Something like Naruto or One Piece. They don't have quite that level where they could poke at different things, or like a Dragon Ball. It's like, okay, we've got 2 seasons of the show, and in North America we've got 23 volumes of the manga, so we have to maybe go through the same beats again. But it's like, I wish you would have done like a crazier what if scenario and said this is not canon at all, and focused on brand new characters, or made the character creator crazy and you had like ridiculous deaths or something. I don't know. I just felt like they could have done a lot more. But what I do want to say, and maybe this would interest you as somebody who liked the first season of Attack on Titan, there is a far greater social element. And there's a much better sense of world, I think, in Attack on Titan 2 than was in Attack on Titan 1, where a lot of times it would just be like, yeah, you have these different outposts, but you can buy stuff there, and you can get new horses, and that's about it. Go on to the next mission. Here, you get to explore the world inside the Trost district of Attack on Titan a lot more, and the way they incentivize you to do so is you can talk to people in between missions, and you have relationship levels with those people.
Sweet.
And so you'll talk to them, and this is really where the character creation comes in, but hold on a second. When you talk to them, they'll ask you a question, and you kind of have to use your knowledge of their personality to pick one of three options. If you pick the right thing, you'll get like a bunch of experience, and you'll level up that relationship. If you pick a kind of okay thing, you'll get a little bit, and then obviously if you pick the last thing, you won't get any. And when you get to their point where you can rank up that relationship, you can go and have little conversations with them. And some of these are really charming. Some of these are... none of them are that revealing. They don't really like turn these characters on their heads or give you vital information or surprise you, but they're nice little charming scenes with, if you know these characters, or even if you don't, it'll give you a little bit more of something to latch onto. And so that's really cool. The problem is, it falls into like this silent protagonist situation where, yes, you're picking options, but because you're not actually having your character speak, and like the way that you can write this in a way that it works, but here it just sort of feels like, all right, I'm going to dump this stuff. What do you think? Okay, cool. Or okay, that sucks. Like it feels very wooden, I guess, the dialogue. And the other problem that I have with it is you can talk to so many people, like characters that are extremely incidental in Attack on Titan, or like wouldn't be somebody you would expect to talk to. Like you can rank up like it's a huge list.
Oh my gosh.
It's like dozens of people. Jeez. And so you'll finish a mission, you'll get back to base, and you'll look at your menu and be like, shit, I gotta talk to like 10 people.
Oh my gosh.
And there are a good number of missions, and so every time you come back, it starts to become a chore where it's like, okay, what do you gotta say? And like the ratio between like haha cute funny to this is nothing is really skewed. And so I wish they would have, like, I like the idea, I like where their head's at, but they should have made you had far fewer conversations, but those conversations are more meaningful. And the same is true with skills. So that's how you get skills, is by talking. So you want to do it, you'll talk to people, you'll level them up, they'll give you a skill, but it's like, hey, your dexterity went up a little bit. And it's like, well, I can't feel this when I'm out in a mission. Like, there are a couple of skills where you're like, oh, this is really cool, but most of it is just like inconsequential garbage. So, there's good ideas here, and like there's enough going on in Attack on Titan 2 that I would definitely play Attack on Titan 3, and it's still enjoyable. The core feeling of flying around and killing Titans is awesome. But,
cool.
Yeah.
Should I play 2 if I want to play 1 or 2? If I want to just jump in somewhere, is 2 the place to be?
Yeah, it's interesting. 2 will definitely give you more of the story. So if it's like, I kind of want to have a high level overview of what's going on in Attack on Titan,
it's
play
just
Attack on
season
Titan
1,
2.
right?
No.
It goes through season 2?
It goes all the way to the very end of season 2.
Nice.
What's weird is I'm caught up with the manga, and it's definitely like, it does some season 3 stuff, but it doesn't specifically frame it as season 3 stuff, and it kind of like dances around a little bit, but it dips into a little bit after season 2 as well.
Dang.
Even though it kind of changes the framing a little bit. So yeah, I would play it. I think it would be one of those games for you, Brandon, where the way that you talked about Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you're like, okay, this isn't amazing, I've got some problems with it, but man, it feels good doing this thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the category it would fall in.
This Attack on Titan 2 feels like a free PS Plus game.
Yeah.
You know?
It does.
I think like May it's coming. You know, like it's that's my hope. They're like, all right, I'll put 2 hours into this. Sure, this will be an evening of just zipping around the world.
Yeah, it's
cabling
weird
those trees.
Because my opinion on it, like, it's probably technically better than Attack on Titan 1, but if you go back and you listen to us talk about Attack on Titan 1, we're like, whoa!
Yeah.
Because we were surprised at how good it was for an anime Omega Force game. But now, because that expectation is there, I feel like the sentiment on Attack on Titan 2 is a little bit worse because we expected more. Yeah. They showed us that they could do it. The one last thing that I want to say drives me insane. Every mission, like literally every mission, ends the exact same way or almost the exact same way, where you'll go and you'll kill the Titans and you'll rescue people. And in the end, it'll be like, oh man, a big Titan, a large abomination is coming. And they'll have these glowing spots on their appendages. And you'll have to go and you have to hit the glowing spots. And then the green bar will go down. And it's like, okay, now you can actually hurt them. And then you have to circle back around and attack their neck. And it's fine. It's a fine mechanic. No problem with it. But when you do every mission the same way, it's just the same fight, copy and pasted over and over and over and over again with deviations so minor that it might as well be the same
That's
thing.
why it's so hard for me to commit my time to a Muso game. It's just so much repetition, and it's like Dragon Quest Heroes was the most I put into it because it's the Dragon Quest world, which I love, and they were like trying to tell a story, but like the story just kept stalling out, and it's like I'm not invested enough in the story, nor are the mechanics changing enough to get me excited. So it's like, all right.
See, that's interesting. I think, like, Dragon Quest Heroes specifically, a lot of these Omega Force games, yes, you can criticize repetition in certain ways, but I would argue from beginning to end, Dragon Quest Heroes tries to put more variety into its mission structure than Attack on Titan does. For sure. Where it is just, it is actually the same thing. Like, it's not even an attempt to really mix it up, and so that's frustrating.
I never played Dragon Quest Heroes 2. I want to play that one.
I want to finish Dragon Quest Heroes 2. It's been a good frame trap so far, I would say. We've talked a lot about big games. But Brandon did something that upset the demons. In fact, they actually changed what the trigger for getting caught in a frame trap would be. They've been really temperamental lately, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. They were so upset by your noise that they just decided to immediately put us into a frame trap as a result of that. How do you feel about it, Brandon?
How do we feel about being caught in a frame trap? It's going to happen. It's something I'm emotionally prepared for. I stand by it.
Okay, you stand by the noise.
I get a clear. It's kind of like the Three Amigos. It's really.
I liked it,
and I always thought it was. I was like, oh, is that just were you just turned a particular way? He did that move when he shot out, and it's like, oh no, that's just how you. It's like
I want that.
It's like how Peter's got like the two fingers down on the palm, and then that makes the webbing go out. They just do it real clear.
I don't know how to feel about that. You just gave me like one of the most intense stares that you've ever given me, and while thrusting forward with both hands. Like I don't know.
If you're not watching the podcast, you're really missing it.
Fast forward to 1 hour and 26 minutes to see that part. That was frightening. If you're not familiar with what kind of frame trap is, and all of this sounds like nonsense, it's a little game that we play to break up the show, a little trivia game. And it's also where we get to talk about our sponsors. I'm really excited about today's frame trap just to like go through the different options because it is, what are these games called in other countries?
Yes.
So it's pretty fun.
Yes.
It's pretty fun. But before we get going into that, let's talk about the people who were kind enough to support this segment of the show. The first is the ever cool Greg the Dark Knight Kettering. Thank you, Greg. Our next sponsor is Zen Market. Zen Market is a Japanese shopping proxy service, which means that for only 300 yen per item, that's less than $3, you can buy games, anime, merch, and more directly from Japanese online stores. You can even bid in real time on Yahoo Auctions if you are looking for rare or used items. Plus, it's easy to buy things from multiple stores and consolidate them for free into one box before you ship them home. Sign up today to get a 300 yen bonus you can use towards your first purchase. It's easy to manage everything from shopping to shipping right from your account on Zen Market's website. Brandon Jones, don't pay more than you have to for that sweet Japanese booty. And helpful staff are always waiting to guide you on your journey should you need assistance. Find Zen Market on social media or just go to zenmarket.jp and check it out for yourself.
You said booty like meaning treasure.
It's open to interpretation.
Okay, all right. I'm just
it's treasure.
It's a wide market.
It's treasure. Our next sponsor, another cool guy, Taker34, who you can follow on Twitter at Taker34X. Thank you. Second to last sponsor is KG2Entertainment.com. Our apps are little nuggets that will challenge the HE double hockey sticks out of you. Are you ready? You thought Flappy Birds was challenging. He was the daddy. Now meet the sons. Brandon liked that.
I do.
Brandon liked that.
Really good.
The confidence. I love it.
Yeah. You got to go for it. Our last sponsor is Schemata. Schemata, a fast-paced mobile puzzle game based on digital logic diagrams developed by Friendly Fish Games, raced through logic circuits while organically learning how they work. The game is free with ads and has a $2 option to disable them. No other microtransactions are in the game. It's out now on Google Play, on the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. Find out more at schemata-game.com. Once again, that is schemata-game.com. And you're probably seeing footage for Schemata right now. All right, you guys ready? How much do you know about games in other countries?
Not enough.
Yeah, very little.
Then you're going to have to be bold. This is multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
The way that we haven't done a multiple choice one in a little while. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say the question. Please wait for the question and all three options to be read. The first person to whisper HOTTAKE into the mic and give their answer gets to go. If you get it wrong, it goes to the other person. All right. Question number 1. What is the NES Contra known as in Europe? What is the NES Contra known as in Europe? Is it A, Alien Defense, B, Antipode, or C, Probotector?
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
A.
Incorrect. Brandon Jones.
Antipode?
Incorrect. Both wrong. Probotector is what it is the NES version specifically.
It was a toss-up between Antipode and Probotector. Those are both just complete nonsense words. It's like a Metal Gear boss. Antipode.
Gotcha. What is bully known as in Europe? Number 2.
Damn, I should know this.
What is bully known as in Europe? Is it A, Rowdy Boy, B, Canis Catum Eat It, or C, Carpe Diem?
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
I gotta go with Rowdy Boy.
Incorrect.
HOTTAKE? B?
It is B. Brandon Jones is on the board.
Because weird, that was like the subtitle. That was on the cover of Bully.
Yeah.
But crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was just out of fear.
Eat it.
And they were just like...
They wanted to remove like all... They didn't want bully to be in there.
Yeah.
They didn't want bullying to be in there. Some tough ones today.
Wow.
What is Mortal Kombat Deception known as in France? Is it A, Mortal Kombat Betrayal, B, Mortal Kombat Treachery, or C, Mortal Kombat Mystification? Kind of a long one. I'm going to read that one more time before we answer.
HOTTAKE.
Okay.
Betrayal.
Incorrect.
HOTTAKE. Mystification?
Correct!
Yes!
Oh my god. Yes! I was like, there's no way.
It's gotta be Mystification.
Mystification is correct. Number 4. Competing franchise with Mortal Kombat. What is Street Fighter Alpha known as in Japan? Is it A, Street Fighter Zero, B, Street Fighter Prime, or C, Street Fighter Revenge?
HOTTAKE. That's gotta be 0.
It is 0.
Okay.
Huber's on the board. Has a chance to tie it up with the last question.
Gosh.
What is Castlevania known as in Japan? Is it A, Devil's Castle Dracula, B, Blood of the Vampire, or C, Hunt of the Night at Dracula's Lair?
HOTTAKE. Devil Castle Dracula.
That's correct.
That one I actually knew. I mean, I probably wouldn't... I knew the multiple choice response. I wouldn't have been able to just produce it, but it's like, this did enter my brain at some point. Hopefully it's still there.
As far as fake answers go, Hunt of the Night at Dracula's Lair was my favorite to write.
So you just came up with those other...
Yeah,
those were
everything
really good.
that wasn't the answer I came up with. Yeah.
Nice.
Revenge was a real good one for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It's good. Revenge. I like that they weren't all just Japan. That there was like France. It was like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They're all different.
I should give a shout out. I pulled like all of these, or almost all of these, all of them. I think I pulled all of them from A-List, AYLIST. So I was definitely cribbing from them. I did some Google searching and found this list, and that helped out. So thank you to A-List. Brandon, you did it. Is this the first time you're breaking out of a con franchise?
I think. I don't know.
I don't know either. Let's pretend
I know
it's
I've
the
played
first.
games. Okay.
That makes it more exciting. So you have the right to get us out of here. Yeah. You can shout a phrase. You can do an action. That's the most popular and one. You got to come up with something by yourself to get us out of here. Okay. I can't tell if you got it or not. I don't know what that laugh means. Well done. Well done.
Used our maneuvering gear to get out of there.
That was demon spite. I like it. I like it. Huber.
Yo.
Tell me about Life is Strange Before the Storm.
There's not much I want to say. Because spoilers.
Because spoilers.
But please play this game.
Is this just like a PSA? Is that what this is?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Farewell just came out. It's the bonus episode for people that bought the digital deluxe version. So it was given away to those people. I don't know if you're going to be able to buy it later separately or not if you didn't get the digital deluxe. But this episode, again, I don't want to say anything.
Is this the final episode that you're talking about?
Yeah, it was a prequel to the prequel, basically. So Before the Storm is before Life is Strange. It's a prequel. And then this farewell episode was even before that. It predates that. Yeah, I don't want to say anything. I just really want people to play Life
I'm going to need
is
you to say some
Strange.
stuff.
For sure.
So I'm going through, well, kind of. I got to like episode 3 in Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Really liked it.
Yeah.
Just haven't finished it yet.
Finish it.
We'll finish it at some point, hopefully. Really got attached to it, but this is being made by different people with different voice actors. A game that is entirely reliant on the story. Don't you worry about the differences?
I was so worried. I was so worried going into this game because there's things you can find out, obviously, about these characters' lives, but you explore so much of it in Life is Strange. Life is Strange, there's a lot of regret. There's a lot of digging up the past. And I'm like, oh, well, we kind of already did that in Life is Strange. You know, what really can we explore in Before the Storm? And it is the perfect prequel in that not only does it tell its own story, but it makes everything in the original Life is Strange matter more. So again, I
got a God of War situation.
Yeah, yes. So I just really encourage people to play this. It's one of the most affecting stories that I've ever played through. Before the Storm and obviously Life is Strange. And it's just such a realistic representation of everyday life, or not everyday life, but of just growing up. The cast of characters they're all going through something different.
Yeah.
But it's just it has spoken to me in a way that few, if any, games have. You know, it being grounded in reality, being a realistic story. Obviously, in Life is Strange 1, you have some like time manipulation powers, but that kind of factors into the story. Again, reliving the past, accepting or refusing to accept your mistakes. So the time travel element kind of is part of the story itself in Life is Strange 1. And Before the Storm doesn't really have any supernatural powers. It's just more about these characters being in these situations. For like Life is Strange 2, we were talking about on stream kind of what we would like to see, and I would love to see like invisibility, because the way that could be implemented into the story in terms of like you have invisibility, but like you're also growing up as a loner, maybe, you know, you're invisible to your parents. Yeah. So there's like that kind of connection. That's kind of how like the time traveling stuff in 1 works. It just, again, about
great X-Files episode.
Awesome.
About exactly that.
So Hubert, we have the original Life is Strange. We have Night in the Woods. We have, not all that long ago, we had something like Gone Home.
Yeah.
This sort of coming of age storytelling, I think, is becoming a lot more prominent in games, specifically in this kind of style where it's heavily focused on story. What separates Before the Storm specifically? Like you're saying it's hitting you, it's giving you all these emotions. You talked very similarly about the original Life is Strange. You talked very similarly about Night in the Woods. What's specifically special about Before the Storm?
Chloe. And Rachel. Chloe and Rachel Amber. Rachel's cool because you didn't get to really see her in the original Life is Strange, so it's
new perspective.
Yeah, so you get that new perspective, and Chloe's just such an incredible character, and you know, you get to make dialogue choices, obviously, but even if the dialogue choices are restrictive or basic, like in a Telltale, whether it's a Telltale game or Life is Strange, you're still putting your perspective on it all. You know, it's like you could argue that there's like, really there's only a couple options you can choose here, but like the same option might be so different between you and I. You know what I mean? Like we can both say the same thing, we can both pick square, but like when you pick it and I pick it, we're kind of in different headspaces thinking about different things. So it's like you still are imprinting your own life onto these characters.
See, that worries me because there are a lot of times where I get attached to a character in a game and I will hit that square button thinking that like, no, I want you to deal with this intense situation like this. And it's like, wait, no, like you were passive aggressive there. That's not the wording I would have used. Does that sort of situation happen where it's like, wait, that's not how I wanted to say that?
I think like once, like one time maybe I like accidentally, I like picked something and I was like, wait, I thought you were going to say that calmly. And she like yelled it instead or something, like something little like that, obviously, like.
But not too big of a deal.
But not too big of a deal. Never enough to take me out of the game. And yeah, I just really want to drive home how great Chloe's performance is in Before the Storm. Voice acting, writing. Like the writing in Life is Strange is so strong. It's just, it just speaks to me. There's so many video games I think about. Like we're just talking about storytelling with God of War and Devil May Cry. And like, you know, it's weird to think how far it's come, especially the jump in the last couple years. And, you know, even with something like The Witcher, it's like, we're in a fantasy world. We're killing beasts. Like, I'm just going to school and, like, trying to take care of my mom and, like, looking after my best friends. And it's like, it's so easy to just get so attached to Chloe. She's just an incredible character, honestly.
I feel like in Telltale games, there's a lot of moral quandary. There's a lot of what would be the right decision right now. Like, it doesn't matter if you're trying to get into Lee's head or, Bigby's head or Batman, you know, from the new or the Game of Thrones characters or something. It's like, this is a tough moral choice here. It doesn't seem like there's a right answer. It's like, if you do this person gets hurt. If you do this person gets hurt. So what kind of person are you? I get that vibe from Telltale a lot. I also get the like gotcha vibe from Telltale, where they'll like set up something and I'm like, I can see what you're doing. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm gonna get screwed at the end of this. You know, like we're getting up to the last chapter of Batman right now, and it's the big Joker question about like what's gonna be the fate of Joker at the end of all this. And it's like, I know I screwed it up. I know I did. You know, it's like I know I'm not gonna get that outcome that I want. Or I was amazed when I have not played Before the Storm, but when I played the first Life is Strange, that I was like, I'm really getting to shape this personality, this person's character. Like, I'm putting way more impact on the tiniest little decisions that I didn't think would be a big deal. That if I'm like playing Batman and someone's like dangling off a building and I'm like, I gotta grab Catwoman or I gotta do this or there's all this action stuff going on, I'm just kind of enjoying it as a Batman fan.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm playing, you know, Life is Strange and like me and Chloe are going to go to this guy's trailer to ask him a question. I'm like, I don't like this guy. So like he comes out like, what do you want? I'm like, I'm like so tense. And it's like, we're just in a trailer park having a conversation. There's not a lot going on action wise in terms of like the undead apocalypse or like Westeros, you know, all killing each other. So like it would seem outwardly that the stakes are not that high, and I think a lot of people looking at Life is Strange will be like, I just don't think there's that much emotional weight to it going in. But it's amazing if you put yourself. I mean, you just brought up Bully before, and it reminded me of that, of like getting back to the school vibe, getting back to almost every single decision you're making having some kind of emotional impact.
It's like you're in it together with her, you know? You see her personality obviously come through with things you can't control. So it's like she loves to blaze. There are so many moments in Life is Strange 1 and 2, or the prequel, where you can just like pause kind of and like have a smoke break. She can like smoke here, like she always smokes on her bed, and then you'll like hear some music. So you get in a scene where like the foster dad wants to take your weed, and it's like, because you just like, this is like episode 1, so it's like kind of spoilery, but it, you know, so it's like your foster dad wants to take your weed, so it's like, yeah, the right thing to do, I guess, is to like give him the weed and like, you know, but
is
it's
that the right thing
but
to
it's
do?
like you're on school grounds, it's like, yeah, you know, your mom is there, it's like your mom is like looking all depressed, but at the same time Chloe is like thinks she's in the right, and it's like, no, like don't check my pocket. Like, I'm not gonna empty my pockets for you. Like, there's just those moments, you know, where it's like, what would she do right here, you know? So it's like you're like fighting for her, you know. It's so good.
You guys both talked about how like being in this period and really shaping this person was so interesting to you, and I realized that like there's a type of experience that I've never had in these like decision based personality forming games where, like, you know, usually I'm good or I'm bad or whatever choices I'm making very intentionally. I want to have a game where like I genuinely try to make somebody, and then by the end I'm like, oh man, I don't like that person. Like, that hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be this weird reflection of self.
I think I just realized it. That's the beauty of Life is Strange compared to like a Game of Thrones Telltale, is it's not, are we going to kill the guy or not? Like, are we going to save this person or this person? Like, are we going to be Paragon or Renegade? It's just like, how are you going to communicate with this person? How are you going to build your relationship with your mother or with your friend or with your foster dad or with the people at school? So it's like way more subtle and way more immersive for me as a player to get into just those everyday situations that are so relatable.
I think the Telltale stuff doesn't necessarily evoke a lot of empathy for the characters because it's so over the top. Because we don't live in a zombie apocalypse.
Are we going to kill these zombies?
We don't live in Westeros or Gotham.
Throw me the gun or no? Those moments,
They're exciting and they're dramatic and like, wow, I just did a bank robbery. That was intense. But like you get into this game and like all these decisions are way more relatable. They're way more, you thinking like, wow, I didn't go, you know, I grew up with I was fortunate enough to grow up with a very supportive family. You know, I'm still close to my parents, but it's just like imagining, you know, having an antagonistic parental figure, having a friend that you really need someone that you can communicate with, but like you have disagreements with your friend, and like in some ways that can be more dramatically engaging than just, you know, something that's over the top, a decision that's literally life or death.
I think that's why Wolf Among Us worked so well for me, and I agree with you that it does get a little bit tiresome when everything is like, does this person live or die? But in Wolf Among Us, like, you're kind of already starting up here where it's like you have these fairy tale creatures living together and trying to be real. And so I think by starting at the top and then working down, like anything that you did to make them more relatable was like pretty extraordinary as a result. And I just would like some more Wolf Among Us soon.
It's coming, right?
Supposedly. Where is it?
It's coming.
Where is it?
It's coming after Batman.
I feel like I've been having this conversation for years now.
It's coming.
Okay.
But
If not E3 by Comic-Con, definitely they'll have something.
Batman Season 2 with the finale's coming, but like it's shaping up to be maybe my favorite Telltale season.
Ooh.
Yeah, like that's how much I've loved Batman Telltale Season 2, 1 through 4.
That almost sounded like a cool. You're wrong, but cool.
No, I did not play Wolf Among Us, and I did not play Borderlands. And I hear from
Both
people
great.
that those are like
Wolf
two
Among
of
Us-
the best offerings from
boy.
Telltale.
Wolf Among Us is my favorite.
So
but
for you to have
maybe
played something that's one of your favorites that I have already like almost finished, like, oh cool, I can check that off the list.
I think
played
Wolf
one of
Among
the
Us
better
is
ones.
my favorite that I've played through.
Yeah.
I hear so much about Tales from the Borderlands that I need to get to.
don't like the Borderlands universe, and Tales from the Borderlands is awesome. And I don't even like that universe, but the game was great.
I like the Westeros universe, and the Game of Thrones is not good.
Man,
You skip that one.
Oh, that's so disappointing. The reason why I haven't played the Game of Thrones one is because I don't want my heart to be broken, because I'm so in love with the idea of Game of Thrones.
You don't need it in your life. Yeah, you're good.
How do you mess that up, man? Like, how do you mess that up?
I don't think you can do it. I don't. It's not the kind of thing where I look back and I'm like, you know what they should have done? I don't know. I don't know how you crack that egg. It's a weird world to jump in and create something that is important and relevant, but also not. You know, it's like you can throw it out and it can also be huge. It's like you can't have both. So, and just the weird people. When like the actors come in the room, you're like, "What?"
Yeah,
it's like, oh, interesting character design. Then like Jon Snow, like,
do you think you have to do that though? Do you think you have to interact with the Jon Snows and the Tyrions and the Cerseis to make it work?
It's a huge world, so no.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, but I mean, from an advertising standpoint, you bet you do.
The emotional case you've made for both Life is Strange and Before the Storm, though, that's
I don't want to. I can't even
that
say
type
anything.
of game. Yeah,
like so much emotion, so many emotions.
You're shook.
Play Life is Strange 1 and then Before the Storm. You'll get a lot out of it. Especially that bonus episode called Farewell. That it's just the writing, the acting, top tier.
Nice.
Yep.
The last game that we're going to talk about today, it's kind of a PSA from me to you guys, and that is Into the Breach.
Nice.
So I streamed Into the Breach. I actually recommend checking out that stream because I think it conveys a lot of what I'm going to be talking about here. So Into the Breach, done by the people who did FTL. And from a pure design standpoint, like tickles me in all of the best ways. It does all of the things that I get really excited about. And it takes a lot of complexity and doesn't freak out about what to do with it. It's a grid-based game where the premise is already great.
Yeah.
It's basically Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Where
Perfect.
You are in giant mechs and you're time travelers and you got to deal with this bug menace. And Prime, one of the first units you get into, does that by punching these giant bugs. And it's really fun. But it's this grid-based game, and every decision that you have to make is interesting but extremely easy to understand because of how well things are communicated. So, like, every unit you have is some sort of disadvantage. Like, you might get a guy that can push things in 4 directions but doesn't do any damage. So, like, if you just have him, you can't do anything. Like, or it would be extremely hard for you to do something. And even people that seem really useful, like artillery, it's like, well, they have to be at least one space away. Mm-hmm. And so every unit that you have, there's a severe disability that you have to take into account. And it's how you combine those that feels so good. But 3 is like the right number, where if it was like 5 people that I had to deal with and all their interactions, it might feel like too much. It might start to become a slog, but it's not. Like, everything just seems so deliberately chosen. And I love that it's not just, hey, run up to a thing and hit it or fire at it. Like, yes, you can do that, but most of your attacks will push something. And you can push something. You can see when guys are going to spawn. You can push an enemy onto that spawn point, preventing the thing from spawning and doing damage to the thing and doing damage to the alien. There's water that you can push things into. If you get webbed, you can push your way out of it. And basically, it just becomes like this sliding puzzle where it's like, okay, I'm going to hit that guy, then he's going to knock into that, and that's going to do some damage, then I'm going to put him here. And so you can set up these really elaborate combos, and it feels super satisfying because each of the individual steps that you have to take to get to that big elaborate combo is very simple and easy to understand. Mm-hmm. Like, there are windows that pop up that will explain something in a couple of sentences, and that's all you need. Like, you read it once, and you're like, okay, good, I know where that is, and you go and you figure it out. But the game knows that you're going to mess up. It knows that you're going to mess up and kind of makes that part of the game. You can reset a turn. Like, you just get that out of the gate. You can just reset a turn if you mess it up, and it will go bad. You get that. There's also a pilot that you can get that will allow you to reset multiple times. And so, like, you have enough of a safety. You're going to need to reset more than one turn, but at least you get one. You know, you have a bit of a safety net there, and that's super, super nice. But there are a lot of times there's this grid that you're trying to protect. Basically, like the thing that is keeping the aliens away, and if the grid goes down, your run is over, you're done. There are a lot of times where you're going to have to ask yourself, like, I'm going to let the grid get hit here. Like, I'm going to be able to make this up. I hope in the future that this is okay. I'm going to protect the grid over damage on my units or another objective, like protecting tanks or other building or tanks or satellites or something like that. You're going to take that hit, or you're going to go the other way where it's like, man, my grid has taken a lot of damage recently. I'm going to give up one of these other things. And so that constant trade-off, like, it's a really foolish mentality to get into, like, everything has to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so much fun about it, is a lot of times you're like, how am I going to what's the best way for me to mess this up? And you get to that point where you're making those kind of big forward-thinking decisions so quickly. Like, you spend an hour with this game and you got it. And that's good. Yeah. I love being able to get to so much complexity so quickly just because of how efficiently it's designed and how much it's communicating. And it's so good. And what I'm sitting here, the reason why I'm rambling on is because, like, I think any of the 9 allies could love this game, and I just, like, please play it.
Yeah.
Like, are there hesitations with this genre or platform or timing or anything?
On my list.
Okay.
Saw a PC gamer raving about it. They're like, yo, GOTY.
Yeah.
One of the first GOTYs of the year.
Yeah.
They're like,
it's very good.
Freaking out about how good it is. But I love simple complexity like that.
Yeah.
Where you on the visually you have kind of a lot going on, like behind the scenes, I mean, with all the units having advantages, disadvantages. There's so much there.
Right.
But it feels so simple in terms of just like, all right, once I get all the mechanics down of each individual unit, I can just make those decisions on the fly. Yeah, I love that.
It's just like the way they could present everything in this game feels like it was done in the best way, or at least a really good one. Like, you don't sit there and it doesn't, like, go on and on and on about, like, this is the state of the world, here's what's going on. It's just like when you let the grid take damage and a building dies or a building gets destroyed and a bunch of people die, like, you'll get smacked. They're like, oh my God, like, you let that happen. Like, all of our best people were in there. And it's like, there'll just be these little text bubbles that kind of bubble up and you'll hear from, and you're like, oh, I feel bad about that. Like, I just made that super tactically, but you're telling me that had a lot more consequence to it than it actually did. That's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Is there a campaign that you're working through right now? So are you like...
The way that it works is there's different difficulty levels. I highly recommend starting on easy. It will still feel like a challenge, I promise, especially when starting out. The way that it works is you have islands of humanity that you're trying to protect. You only start with one island. Once you beat that island, you unlock another one. And then when you beat the second one, I believe this is the way it works. When you beat the second one, it's like, hey, do you want to do the final battle? And you can go and you can do that final battle right away. But if you do that, you know, you're not going to be as developed. However, the final battle scales around you. And so you have another choice to make. Do I want to go and try to get more weapons and resources at the other islands, the 3 other islands, or 2 other islands, or whatever it is? Or do I want to jump into the final battle right away? And then once you do that, you kind of beat it and you can go up on another difficulty, and, like, the maps and what you're fighting changes every time.
Cool.
And so you're just trying to have a good run. As you accomplish specific things, you'll get medals, and you can earn different sets of mechs. So you start out with, like, a pretty straightforward one, but then you can unlock, like, I got one that you could only push, and then you had a fighter pilot that could, like, jump over enemy units. And so if you're looking for, like, I want a super lengthy campaign, I don't think that's there for you. Like, if you really stick with it, you'll probably be able to get through easy and normal fairly quickly. Right. But what's fun about it, and I think the game makes a strong enough case for it, is you're going to want to see what those different mechs do and how it changes the feel of the game. Like, that stuff is good enough that getting those unlocks and trying it on different difficulties and configurations, that's what you're going to want. Because when you die, you can send one pilot that you've leveled up back to the past and try again and carry that sort of thing over. And you might get multiple really good pilots, and so choosing the best one is another interesting decision. it's just really fun.
Sick.
It is like the kind of game, I mean, it's such a cliche
Sounds
thing to
addicting.
say. Yeah, where you'll be like, all right, I've got 10 minutes.
One more.
And then like 3 hours go by.
Not to be that guy, but could this possibly work on mobile?
Yeah, it could. It could definitely work on mobile. Yes. It could work on
I'm
mobile.
not saying it would be best, but
sweet.
there's just but there's just this sounds like there's a lot of instances where I go to my phone to amuse myself that like something like this sounds awesome for that time period. I'm in that mood. So
Yeah,
I just want to crush something and do something tactically real quick for 10 minutes and then done.
I think it might be coming to mobile. I've just kind of, I should know this and I don't, but I've just been so kind of enamored with the PC version that it's like, I see a lot of people saying that, and I'm having such a good time over here that I don't even care. But I think it might be coming to mobile, and so if you want to wait for that, I understand.
Those tactical thinking a lot before making this step and then saving it, and I'll get back to that chess match later, are one of my favorite genres on mobile, period. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been trying out a bunch of different mobile games, Brandon, and I know that you're more well-versed in mobile than a lot of us. And the thing that I'm finding frustrating is, like, so many of them feel like I'm not playing this, I'm just clicking through and winning, and it's going to take me hours to get to the point where I feel like any of my decisions matter. And so something like this, where it's like, nah, son, you're gonna die, would be like a kind of a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of what I'm playing on mobile. Is that like something that you're encountering that annoys you?
Yeah.
Because like they call themselves strategy games, but I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times I'll like one aspect of the rule set or how the gameplay works and not like most of the other things in that game. Mm-hmm. So it's tough that like in a lot of instances I find I'm like I like this mobile game and this mobile game, and if I could just jam them together, I'd have like my favorite mobile game ever.
The thing that I would be worried about on mobile with Into the Breach is like where you're going really matters. So if I fat finger it or do something stupid, I'm going to get really pissed off, and that could potentially have very dire consequences. And so it is nice having the precision of a mouse in order to deal with that stuff. But it's great. It's one of those games, like, you know, I talk a lot about big RPGs or long, very involved emotional games on here. And it's like, well, okay, I'm probably going to be the only ally that plays this, or maybe Damiani or maybe Huber will or something. But it's like this, you guys can get into this and spend a couple hours with it and be good and get so much out of it that I really do hope that you give it a try. Like, it's not expensive. It's very easy to understand. It's cool. It's fun. It's great. Please play it.
I might play it today.
Yeah, please do.
Because I'm going to be writing a review, so I'll just kind of have it on the side. Maybe a little bit like Hearthstone style.
Like, it's so efficient at getting to the point that even spending like 20 minutes with it, you'll get something.
Is there a clock winding down during battles, or can you really just stare at that battlefield for like 10 minutes? Like,
oh, no. You can like before you make your turn, you can stare as long as you want. Cool. Yeah.
Like, I'll be back to that.
Right?
Yeah, I love that.
That sounds nice, but there have been moments where a turn I will stare at it forever, and then a turn will go by and I'll be like, wait, I didn't see that.
Right.
Of course that would happen. I didn't see that, so it can.
I just saw someone. I saw someone tweet out from another publication that was just like, "I've been staring at this map for the last 15 minutes trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't know."
Yeah.
I think I would have a better understanding of my tactical advantages right now, and I'm still clueless.
And that is something that I would recommend to people when they start playing, because I fell into this trap too, where like I would start, something would go bad and be like, no, I have to, new game. And I did that like 4 or 5 times. I don't remember how many times I did it, but I did a lot of times. And you need to break that mentality pretty quickly. Like, just let the bad stuff happen. Try to make it not as bad as possible. Like XCOM. It's very similar. Yeah, and FTL is a good.
Your buddy went out the airlock, just let him go.
Let him go.
Do you know what my friend did to me the other day? It was the worst. He gave me a HOTTAKE!
Oh!
Did you see it coming? Be honest with me.
No, but I wasn't scared that time.
Okay.
Didn't see it coming.
I'm excited today to announce a new thing that we're going to be doing with HOTTAKE.
New things!
It's going to be a recurring HOTTAKE, where it's going to be a frame, and I'm going to put different things into it, depending on the situation. So, like when E3 rolls around, I've got ideas for it. The name of the segment is "How We Doing?" That's the name. of the segment. And what I thought would be fun to do is to talk about things that we love and if they should be brought back. And if they are brought back, how would we bring them back? Things that we care a lot about. Things that are not in good shape, let's say. The first I want to start with is Castlevania. It's been a long time since Lords of Shadow 2. And we just recently had a well-received, which I have not seen yet, well-received Netflix anime.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oof. Only 4 episodes.
I know. They were promoting it the other day, and I got excited. I thought the new episodes were out. But...
I feel like I'm doing this bad thing where I'm saving, because I know I'll like it, I'm saving the Netflix Castlevania for when I really need it, because I know I'll love it. But I'm worried that I'm just going to keep saving it.
Don't save it too much, because then you're going to like have higher expectations. There's just not that much of it.
There's just not that much
of it.
Yeah,
and it's not like a 10 out of 10. It's great, but it's not.
I don't need it to be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's not going
I need it to be above like a 3.
Perfect.
And I'll probably like
There's like 2 scenes that are pretty stellar.
Like, it's good. It's really good.
Pretty gratifying.
It's really good.
But I think every single ally has a deep admiration and love for Castlevania, and they've tried so many. Well, maybe not so many, but they've tried several different things with Castlevania. A lot of them have been bad, in my opinion. I know you and I have differing feelings on Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, I like Lords of Shadow 1, but 2 I despise.
So what is the state of Castlevania right now? Does it need to come back? That's the first question.
Yeah, it does.
Why?
Unfinished business.
There are a lot of...
There's unfinished business, though. You know, like...
What is the unfinished business?
Series, like... Oh, God, I don't even want to say it, but I must. Like, Onimusha, they had a 4th one with different characters, but, like, 3 kind of wrapped it up. Like, it's complete, you know? I just feel like Castlevania has unfinished business. There's more to tell. There's more to see. Like, it just doesn't feel over.
Man, for, like... In terms of wrapping up a story, I don't get that sense from Castlevania at all. Like, that's... If you were to give me a new Castlevania game, story and lore is not why I would be excited.
Of course.
Like, but I mean, the music.
For sure. All those other elements. But I just feel like it's hard to put my finger on it. It just doesn't feel over. It doesn't feel like it should end yet.
Like within this space, not necessarily just with the story.
Yeah, not just the story. Not just the story. Just like... We need a modern Castlevania in a way that Lords of Shadow was not.
So what does that modern Castlevania look like? Because you've got Bloodstained coming out, you've got all of these indie games inspired directly by Castlevania. What does it look like? But before we get there, Brandon, does Castlevania need to come back?
No. It hurts.
That's why we went to you.
It hurts real bad. But I'll tell you what is bringing me to that decision is Souls, man. I mean, I just finished the Souls retro, and I can't stop thinking that. Just so many moments. I'm watching footage of this game. I played Bloodborne, but I did not play Demon Souls, or I played Dark Souls for like an hour. We streamed it back in the day. But I have not experienced much of this game, and I'm just watching hours and hours of it. And this is it. They did it. This is the modern version of this series I played back in the day. Surprises, opening up crypts, having just all sorts of terrible, horrible things come flying out. You know, projectiles and boss animations and enemy animations that are just wild and unpredictable, and just sometimes flat out unfairness. Just there's no way you could have dodged that. Sorry, you're dead. And the gothic vibe, incredible music, just the flogging. You know, just this idea that, like, I am just beating this game and just smacking it, and just this battle of attrition to finally get to the end and get to this big, just unforgiving boss encounter, and then finally get through that. And then even having a victory at that kind of be short-lived, because you know the evil's coming back. You know this whole world runs on cycles, and Dracula's going to be back someday, and whether that's your heir or someone who's going to pick up the mantle is going to have to do this whole thing again. And so... just that feeling of despair and hopelessness, and that it really takes a particular type of person to carry this burden of going in and stopping this curse. And they did it. And so it's absolutely everything I would have ever wanted in Castlevania.
I'm going to push back on this, man. Can I ram a stake through a vampire's heart in Dark Souls or Bloodborne? No. Sure, the gameplay is extremely similar. The dream would be if From Software just made a Castlevania game, of course. But, like, I want vampires. I want the bloodline. I want the Belmonts. I want the whips. Yeah, you can get a whip in Bloodborne, but it's like such a different vibe and lore. It's just a different feeling, you know? It's like comparing the hunters and the whatever you are in Dark Souls, I don't even know where's bread. But like comparing that to like this vampire hunter. You know, I'm gonna be a vampire hunter coming back to slay Dracula. Like I don't get that feeling from Dark Souls or Bloodborne.
Arguing that Bloodborne is a replacement is something that I've heard before and really don't agree with, because Bloodborne to me is like actually haunting. And I think there are many things that make it actually haunting. It is the desperation you feel in the fights. It is the seriousness with which the story presents itself. It is the fact that you can't hit a button and just open up your map. Like, there are a lot of factors at play. And to me, like, Castlevania is... If Bloodborne is like simulating gothic horror, Castlevania is taking a step back and being like, man, isn't this shit awesome? Like, isn't it really cool that this skull is floating around, and isn't that fun? And we're going to have this sick track playing alongside of it. It's more of like a celebration of how awesome this theme is than actually freaking me out the way that Bloodborne can. And I kind of miss that celebration. I miss that levity, and that's why I don't like Lords of Shadow. Is it like tried to do that but didn't succeed, and I would much rather have a fast-paced, fun, kind of almost jubilant 2D game.
So you would want 2D again, like Symphony and
me?
the old...
Yes, I'd want a Switch 2D like Symphony of the Night style.
I don't know. It just feels so limiting to me. I know you can do really wonderful things with 2D, but like, wow, do I really want to go into a massive castle and just explore that thing in 3 dimensions and like go underneath and find some crypts, and like, I want that so bad, and that's something that just 2D cannot.
Here's what I'm kind of a little bit worried about is... I was talking about that tone, right? Like, even playing Symphony of the Night right now, which is an incredible game with incredible atmosphere and incredible music, I don't think it's a game that, like, freaks you out or is haunting to you. I think it is a game that it kind of makes you excited. With the shift to 3D, I want to know that you can nail that tone. Like, don't make it so campy that it's, like, agonizingly awful. Something like a... I don't know. I have several references that I could pull out there, like Matt Hazard. Like, I get it.
Yeah,
you're cool. But don't take yourself so seriously that it's a slog to get through like every single interaction. Like, be 3D, give me a huge world to explore, make it awesome. But what does that tone look like? That's where I'm struggling.
Like, I want to see like double down on vampires. You know what I mean? Like, Vampires coming out. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines has been out. There's been shades of vampires, obviously, throughout Castlevania. It's built on Dracula and vampires, of course. But, like, and Lords of Shadow, that opening trailer, like, was showing you, like, yo, you're going to, like, have these powers and stuff. It's like, Arkham, like, be the Batman, like, be a vampire. It's like, I still feel like they haven't driven that home yet in a satisfying way of, like, being a vampire or being a vampire hunter, whichever it may be. And that's kind of the unfinished business I have, where it's like, I can't even imagine with modern technology and graphics and all of this, how cool they could do vampires of just that, there's so much there of just like sunlight and staking things through hearts and garlic and holy water and mist and bats. Like, really get that.
A day-night cycle would be fascinating.
Yeah,
in
day
Castlevania.
and night. Yes.
So like there's only stuff you can go find that'll be out at night, but obviously night is not a fun.
Yeah.
It's a horrible night to have a curse. The game you're describing, Huber, it will never, ever, ever happen. It just doesn't, like, what company are we talking about here? You know, it's like, it just doesn't seem, it seems like, and that's the kind of thing where it's like, Souls did it, there's no need to do it. Obviously, there's a different recipe to making a Castlevania game, there's a whole different flavor there, but that seems too much of an ask, I think, for a fan of games.
Well, Vampire sounds insane. Like, the brief things I've heard about it is that you are a doctor that has become a vampire, and you can choose to either feed on people, you can kill anyone or save anyone in that game, which is insane. So if this game can do that, like, what can a huge budget Castlevania game be?
Sometimes I think we, like, overestimate what a thing needs to be because I think about A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah.
Right? And I think about personally how I feel like what an amazing game that is. And obviously you could counter back with Breath of the Wild, of course. But Breath of the Wild or A Link Between Worlds was such like a feel-good check-in moment to me because it aped so much of what A Link to the Past did well, but that like, being able to shift into the wall and how it incorporated that mechanic into the story, how it changed the feel of everything, how it changed how you navigated that world, made it a really fresh, exciting experience. And when I think about Castlevania, like I think about why those DS games are praised so much. It's because they change things up mechanically. Like I think how you move through an environment and how you attack things and the tools you have is like the most important thing in Castlevania. Like how those sub-weapon feel is crucial. How your character can dash is crucial. And so like I think there's so much room for experimentation within that could be exciting enough to be a new game. I don't think it has to be like a huge mega blockbuster.
It's just there's been so many Metroidvania games lately. Like I'm so fatigued with that genre, I guess.
Yeah.
And just even talking about God of War earlier, like the reinvention of this franchise, like I guess that is what I want from Castlevania because like they tried it with Lords of Shadow and it just didn't work. And obviously they have the PS2 ones like Lament of Innocence and everything. They went 3D, but like I still feel like we have not had that legendary 3D Castlevania. We need it. It's not done. Like we need that game. I refuse to be part of this world.
So let's talk about this 3D this mythical 3D Castlevania that needs to be done. That needs to be legendary.
Yeah.
I think the first question you need to ask is how much of the old Castlevania is it, or maybe a better way to frame it is how much of the old Castlevania is it trying to adapt to this new format? Is it a completely radical different thing that is going in a truly new direction where a lot like there are no sub-weapons, you're not picking up hearts, you're not doing any of this stuff? Is that all gone, or are you trying to keep some of those things
like a Resident Evil 4 situation, you know, you're still picking up herbs and Ethaid sprays and there's still elements of the other Resident Evil. Some characters pop up here and there, but it just is. So I would say something like that, and like God of War, where like there are elements, of course, that carry through, like any Final Fantasy game or something, in Zelda. But you know,
what's so interesting about Resident Evil 4, like what makes that game so remarkable to me, is the speed at which it increased. Like how you could just simply get from point A to point B was so much faster, so much more hectic, and the same was true of your enemies. And what I liked is like the tone shaped around that. Like it wasn't this methodical dark and dreary horror game anymore. It still had those elements, but it was an action movie in a lot of ways. And I liked that. Like whatever direction it goes, I want the whole theme to be shaped around it.
Yeah. I think Jones, dude, you got me so hyped with the day and night cycle. Like going into a castle or something, but like, sure, it's daytime outside where everything's peaceful. You have that calm, you have that safety. But even if it's daytime and you go into that crypt, like there's no sunlight down there. Like that's a dungeon. It's gonna be intense.
It'll be fun if you had like grapple moves too. If you could like grab a vampire and just like hold him out the window and burn him, and they're like something.
I want to be a vampire.
Really curious to see where this conversation is at after Bloodstained comes out.
Yeah.
If we play that and we're like, finally, or we're like, I guess we're over this genre. I don't know.
I mean, honestly,
how much do we love that stuff? Is that are our eyes kind of glossed over with nostalgia, or is this? Can they keep making these games?
They can keep making them.
Yeah, because I think of like Celeste and I guess not really Celeste, but like Iconoclast kind of has that 2D puzzle kind of, you know, shades of the old Castlevanias in there, and Link Between Worlds wasn't too long ago, so like
I mean you've got even more like literal ones like Dead Cells or
Dead Cells, even Owlboy kind of has
Axiom Verge to a degree.
So like they keep making these games and they're great, but like I still crave and yearn for that huge Castlevania game.
What?
But that's just preference, you know, because you're always gonna have the Symphony of the Night. I guess, see, again, there hasn't even been a good 3D one. It can't even be like a Resident Evil 1 versus a 4. Right. It's just like, Symphony of the Night or Super Castlevania 4.
Right.
They're both the side-scrollers. Like, we need that 3D one so it can be like, all right, Symphony of the Night or this one. It's like, just a matter of preference.
What about a 3D game where you start, there's no opening cinematic. There's no monologue from any character whatsoever. You just start in a ruined world, and people are going to cry Dark Souls immediately, but I think it's going to be different from that, where you kind of just explore and you fight and you start from nothing and you eventually get different weapons, but you're practically like naked, but you find out about, you know, the Belmonts and the history of Dracula. And so it eventually plays into a history that you already know and are connected with. But I love the idea of like just very slowly piecing that together and eventually becoming as powerful as like an Alucard or something over a very long period of time.
Would love it.
But
open world, Castlevania.
With that sort of game, would you want like a roguelike element? Like many games have shown that you could incorporate to it. Like if you die, do you lose things?
I only want, honestly, I'm not joking around, but I really only want one thing, and that is to drive a stake through a vampire's heart in a satisfying way.
If that's in the game, you're good.
I think of the Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves Dracula movie. And there's like a scene where they stake a vamp, and the blood just like splatters. There's like buckets of blood. Like, I want that.
Brandon, I want to go back to you saying we don't need this.
It's not we don't need it. I don't think it's possible. Konami would have to make this game, right?
No, because Mercury Stream did Lords of Shadow.
Right, but Konami would have to sign off on it.
Yeah, of course.
But I also
and they just
think
don't
it's
seem
very
interested
important.
whatsoever.
Yeah, that's it. That's the phrasing that I want, because the Konami that greenlit Lords of Shadow is not the same Konami of today.
That's why we got to fight harder. We demand it.
Konami
we demand it.
But my argument to you is Konami has shown no matter how much something seems obvious and no matter how much we loudly complain about it, they just like don't care. Yeah. Like how do you deal with a company that took something like PT and ruined it, a guaranteed gold mine of interest and awe, and just like let it burn on the vine like that? Like,
and I know there's a lot of Metal Gear Survive fans out there. I keep hearing really good things about it actually, but you know, that's still not the Metal Gear that millions and millions and millions and millions of fans fell in love with.
I mean, let's look at Metal Gear Survive as an example here. Let's say Konami takes the template of Castlevania and makes a persistent online game, like
where you're a vampire hunter.
Does that? Are you immediately like checked out? No, that can't ever work. Are you open to the idea of that?
I'm always open to the idea, but I would be lying if I said I wouldn't be bummed out. If they went that direction, like an online
specific. Describe it one more time. Sorry.
So, like, let's say they take a Metal Gear Survive route, where it's a
Castlevania Survive.
To make it simple, let's say it's Castlevania.
Better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
I'd rather play that than have them not make any more Castlevania games. Definitely.
Okay. See, I don't know if I'm always on that side of the better than nothing.
Because
sometimes I think the nothing is better.
Well, I mean, now I'm not playing Survive. I thought I would actually. I thought I would make some time for it, but
because like
not
nothing,
interested.
You know, your past is protected. You know, those things are not like if a new thing comes out, you still have Symphony of the Night. Like it's there. It's not going anywhere.
I think the thing for me is when we're talking about bringing something back or having it pivot, we have to identify like what was valuable about that thing in the first place. And what's so interesting is like there are very few games that feel so mimicked as nakedly as something like a Symphony of the Night, where there have been so many direct or indirect inspirations that I ask myself, like, is really the fundamental appeal of that sort of Castlevania the progression, the map, the way that you unlock things? Like, is that what we need from Castlevania? Are we already getting that need? Or is it really the style, the music? Can that also be replicated? Yeah. So I want to know. Whereas like
I think in my brain, a hybrid of a Devil May Cry and Bayonetta on one end and a Dark Souls Bloodborne over here, and then the new 3D Castlevania would be right in the middle.
That's
like
why
that.
I was
where
so
it's like
frustrated.
A little faster paced, but it's not like a hybrid of those systems where it's like you have that flashy sick combat, but you also have the insanely rewarding exploration of Souls and Born and the mystery. So it's like
I really like how in a lot of Castlevania you're so slow at attacking, where like when you attack you really got to commit to it, and if you mess up, you fail. And I that's why I really don't like Lords of Shadow, is because it is just trying to take something that and supplant it on Castlevania that was already better in Castlevania. Like even Castlevania 1, like when you swing that whip, like so much of the strategy is, okay, how do I have to jump at the right moment, and when do I need to hit the button to hit that Medusa?
But I feel like Symphony of the Night is a fast game.
It is a fast game, but even thinking about those boss fights, that element is still present. Like when you get hit by a boss, Alucard goes, "Bruh!" and he can't do anything for a beat because you got hit, and suddenly like your positioning was changed. And so yes, it is much faster. Yes, you can attack a lot more quickly and do a lot more things, but I still think there's that back and forth of like finding your opening.
Yeah.
I want that methodical nature to be present.
Yeah, not exactly. So like, not Devil May Cry Bayonetta combat, not Bloodborne Dark Souls combat, but somewhere in the middle. So it has that kind of methodical, know when to attack, but
then we just wrap around and like, are we just talking about Bloodborne?
Well, to me, one of the big things, and to me, it's not like I brought up Souls, not just Bloodborne. Like I go to Demon Souls and I see Castlevania there. At Dark Souls 3, there's lots of Castlevania going on. Like I think one of the things that's very different to me from Souls than from the memories that I have of the original Castlevania. Did not play a lot of the 3D stuff. I worked on the retrospectives, so I'm familiar with them, but I did not play like Curse of Darkness on Xbox and like have favorable memories of it. But it's for me with Souls. Souls is a lot of stop and start. Souls is a lot of like go into an area, take a look, figure out, do I want to just avoid this? Do I want to like take on this enemy? And then you like lock onto that one enemy, and it's like, okay, me and this person are having this, this fight. Then I'm gonna try to get past that, and then maybe like juggle maybe two people at the same time. Castlevania to me is I killed this guy, now I killed this guy, and I killed this guy, now this guy jumped over that guy, killed 5 more people. They just keep coming and coming and coming.
Right.
And so it's like I get the vibe in Souls that like the world is tainted. Like this world is full of evil that are just roaming the world. Whereas Castlevania, like the dirt is evil. Like it literally like Dracula is puppeteering these things. Like he's up in his castle cackling, throwing all this stuff at you. So like again, I bring up attrition. I think that's a very important part of it. Like, I would want to see more like ads. I'd want to see more just being overwhelmed by all sorts of things. Like you were saying with skulls and stuff like that, just having little things pestering you and knocking you off of ledges and and like Souls has a little bit of that, but I would just see just a barrage of threats as opposed to like the lock on,
And they tease that with that Lords of Shadow CG thing. He's fighting a whole army, but it's Lords of Shadow. Didn't work out.
Well, no, I think, Jones, you bring up a really good point that I like a lot. When you think about both Symphony of the Night and the older Castlevanias, like whether you're platforming or whether you're fighting enemies, you have to tap into a rhythm in order to get through a room. And if you don't tap into that rhythm, you'll probably fall into a pit, you'll get stun locked by multiple enemies. Like, there's a punishment for not figuring out of what the rhythm is for that particular room. Very, like, Mega Man-esque in a way.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I want from a 3D Castlevania. And playing the 3D Castlevanias, like you're not dealing with as many things that you had to deal with in a 2D Castlevania, maybe because of the limitations of technology. But like those don't exist anymore. I agree with you that unlike a Souls, being overwhelmed would be key to it. Like having to deal with a lot of guys quickly. Like they can take you out super quick, but you can also take them down in like a hit or two with a swing of your whip. I think could feel really cool. Would you incorporate a lot of platforming? I think is the question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Like
getting through the castle and like whipping around and climbing things, what have you.
Secrets you can get to that are purely just you gotta have the hops to get up there.
Okay.
You have to judge that jump and
that
make
worries
it happen.
me. Is this like we have full camera control? Yeah. Is it locked camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, full camera control.
Okay.
And the sense I get the vibe from, this is probably unfair, but like I get the vibe from Souls and from Lords of Shadow where it's like I did my thing here, move on. And like and it definitely is a linear nature with a lot of the old Castlevania games. But I would love a Castlevania where like you were saying, like open world, I definitely get the vibe of like exploring this place. I can kind of look around in a room and be like, what is this room for? Like what happens in this room? Like why was this built this way? As opposed to just like cool fight, moving on.
See, it's funny because talking about Symphony of the Night, one of the reasons it was so praised is because you had this huge castle that you could just kind of roam around and get lost in. But when I think about that style of game, it always felt kind of obvious, like, okay, I can't go here, I can go here, and like my routes were always very clear. And playing through the new God of War, it's extremely linear, but like there are different offshoots where it's like, I'm gonna go check out and see what's in this room. And I don't think the new Castlevania I would want to be like a sprawling open world, like I'm running through a field. I want it to be like, here are 3 different paths. Which
like
one
God
am I going to take?
Last of Us or something.
Yeah, and then like depending on the path I take, it's a really well constructed, intricate enemy layout, puzzle, platforming. Like that's what I want.
Yeah.
Which kind of like Castlevania 3, like choose your route.
Yes.
But
there's hope. There's hope.
Will it happen?
Yeah. Of course.
Well, what happened?
Gotta believe it, baby.
Will this type of Castlevania game ever come to exist?
If I say yes, it won't happen. If Huber says yes, it will. That's just how it works.
So you're saying the only one we need to hear yes from is Michael Huber?
Yes,
we're
it's
done.
happening.
We're done.
We're gonna get a new Castlevania on PS4
Woo!
and Switch and Xbox One
PC, baby.
and PC.
Woo!
Before next gen, we're getting a Castlevania.
I had a whole list of games that we could talk about.
It's a Castlevania segment.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Well, I was thinking about it as we got started, where there was a lot being said about Castlevania, and so I didn't want to be like, okay, time to move on to the next game. But yes, there was supposed to be a huge list that we were trying to get through.
I mean, I'll add one last thing to it.
Yeah.
As long as that's just we're talking about the
Yeah.
Castlevania segment of Frame Trap. I'd be bummed if they came out with a new Castlevania after all this time and it was just a bunch of weird new character family. And I think that's kind of what turned me off some of the DS games. I was like, who are these people? You know, it was just like, it was so much new stuff. I'm like, I've played a lot of Castlevanias. I don't know if I need to introduce myself to all of this newness. But like, I would love just Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. Like just classic. Like, don't use your imagination, reimagine them, sure, but don't go too far. You know, give me a classic vibe. Give me.
So do the Dark Universe.
I'd love to
that
see
they were
a
gonna
Tomb
do.
Raider reboot version
Grim
of
Reaper.
Castlevania. Just going back and embracing your Simon. It's the original. You know, like. It'd be fun to kind of start. I'd love to see something. I'd love to see something that's the beginning of something. I made that statement. You can go back and laugh at it if you want in the GT Castlevania retrospective, where I was like, "Hey, Lords of Shadow, maybe this will be the new franchise." And you're like, "No, they're making one more and then they're done." Where I didn't know at the time. I was like, "This could be a whole." I asked I said in the script, "I'm like, will this new generation last as long as the last?" No, was the answer.
Nope.
Abruptly and sadly.
I agree with you. I like the idea of having the bosses go back to like the Castlevania 1 style of classic
beasts.
Yeah.
Werewolf. Full
Man,
moon. You gotta like watch the sun and the day and night, and then the moon as well. Like if it's a full moon.
The circles of the moon.
I don't know if I agree with you that like new characters aren't interesting or
Oh
unnecessary.
no. But if they're all new,
Sure,
if there's
sure.
nothing I can go back to, you know, it's like it'd just be fun to play Simon or
There's
Trevor
like little
again.
shops you can go to. You can buy like holy water and stuff. There's like the apothecary.
But like you think about those classic monsters, right? You think about something like Frankenstein, and there's so many things that you could do with that fight.
Yeah.
There's so many like qualities that Frankenstein has, the way he comes to life, the way he's put together. There are so many mechanics that you could put in just into that one fight that would be so cool. And like if the new Castlevania were to start off with a giant flying bat, and you have to figure out that like you need to get this axe and throw it at it, but it's like new God of War style, that would be sick. All right,
I want it. I need it. Vampire. I hope it scratches that vampire itch.
Yeah.
Coming out in June.
that's our trial run of how we doing. Checking in. Might have to change that up a little bit. We ready for some emails?
Let's do it.
How are we doing emails?
How we doing emails?
Viewers or listeners, post in the comments a video game where you drive a stake through a vampire's heart. Let me know.
What about
In games when that's gone down.
You know
I know in Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3 or 2, you like put the cross in her. Remember that kill? It's like, Gah!
You remember, I actually really liked these games at the time. I'm curious if I would like them now. Do you remember Blood Rain?
Blood Rain.
Oh, yeah.
I barely
Oh, yeah.
played Blood Rains though. I
Blood
barely
Rain
played
is,
them.
is from a time that will never come back. You will never get another Blood Rain. That came out at the only period of time where a Blood Rain made sense. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But I had fun. Like, those games were so stupid in their violence. Like, the way you could make things bleed. They were jumping on people, stabbing them. We should full play through
Blood Rain.
All right. First question comes in for Brandon. He says, "Hello, everyone. There are many moments in games that challenge us, then frustrate us. But has there been any moment where a seemingly random enemy encounter or lesser boss had a difficulty spike so great it forced you to stop? Has it caused you to completely restart the game or drop the game entirely? For example, the one time I played Final Fantasy XIII, there was an encounter in a tower, and because of the game's structure, I couldn't grind and overcome the enemy. It wasn't a boss, but due to the linearity of the game, there wasn't an option to become stronger. Because of this and a host of other factors, I did not want to restart and haven't played the game ever since. And it's been about 7 years. I have other instances, like in Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy X, but I was curious if any of the panel have encountered this. Thanks, as always, for reading my email. If you do, and as always, stay easy."
Ursula, Kingdom Hearts. My goodness.
I don't remember struggling with that, so you're going to have to remind me.
Oh my gosh, I struggled so hard because I was trying to just like burn through the games to catch up for 3. I've been playing through Kingdom Hearts for the last couple years, dating back to game trailers. And I remember getting to Ursula, and it was just this huge spike. Like, I was cruising through the game, and then got to her and was just melted, blown away. And like, it wasn't even, I couldn't even come close. And I was like looking up strategies and like trying to see like, oh, okay, you gotta like dodge here and like go behind her head, and you like hit her head 'cause she's like really gigantic. And I still tried and like,
what difficulty were you playing on?
Just normal.
Okay.
Couldn't do it, so then I had to go back to other places and grind, and that just really slowed me down on the game and like put it away for a while. But the prospect of 3, and because of Brad's love for it, like helped me overcome it. But it was so annoying because I had to go back to other levels and level up and just keep hitting things, and like in Kingdom Hearts, like leaving the area and then coming back and like loads and loads. It's a whole big thing.
I remember when I was because of your hype, I was originally trying to get through Onimusha. This was relatively recently, like 2 years ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know. And I was really excited about it. And then I realized that you had to not only spend experience to like level up your swords, which was awesome. You also had to spend experience to like basically get new levels of keys to get into doors. And I was like, what? Because I didn't realize that you had to do that. The second time when I came back, I was like, okay, I know I need to do this, and so it was less of an issue. But I just remember that being such a draining experience of being like, oh, I can't get into this door, and I just have to keep killing enemies until I can, and feeling like really defeated.
How funny is that? I didn't bring it up about Devil May Cry, but like I got stuck in the opening room. Like, we take tutorials for granted, I guess, because we used to be able to read the instruction manual, which, kind of lost in
some instruction manuals were hot trash.
Yeah, but like, I got stuck in the opening room for 10 minutes. The game does not tell you how to play. It doesn't tell you any controls or what to do. So I'm like running around this room, and there was the door with like this like red kind of like ghostly image on it, and I thought, because of like playing like Devil May Cry and Bayonettas and stuff, I thought that I had to like kill an enemy to open it, but all I had to do was like give it red orbs to open it. And I was just like, oh, so it was just like these moments where you don't.
I've had that happen so many times where, because of like game conditioning, where you're like, okay, you're giving me this signal, I clearly need to do this thing, and then that's not the answer, and you're like, my whole life is a lie. Like, I've done this thing that video games have trained me for so much that it can really work against you, especially, and it's so obvious. Like, you just have to go up and hit a button. Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing?
I can't think of like small things. I mean, there was my infamous Chrono Trigger story where I never beat Chrono Trigger because I just got to the end boss and couldn't do it. I tried so many times, and then I must have been tripping, but like I swear I time traveled all over that game, and there was no enemies, there was no way to level up. There was every area was just nothing there.
Sure.
And I gotta mention, was it Father Logarius? Who's the guy on top of Canehurst? in Bloodborne?
Martyr Logarius.
Martyr Logarius?
Yeah.
I start up Bloodborne, and I'm
it.
like, okay, Cleric Beast like takes me a couple tries, and then like Bloodstarved Beast is, woof, this is tricky, and then like I get into a groove, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I'm at the point now where I'm not just running in and taking each of these things down in one shot. Like, I'm definitely getting spanked in this game, but I'm loving it. Like, I would die and I would laugh out loud. I'd be like, haha, this game is hard. Okay, let's try this again and run through it. I'm like, I'm really digging this. And I came very close to completely quitting that game on that fight. I was so mad. It brought like the way I thought I was going to approach every aspect of that game. It finally happened with Logarius, and I was just like, "Why am I?" Like,
did you do the DLC?
I didn't finish it, but yeah, I started it.
Okay, how was Ludwig for you? The first boss.
I think everybody was talking about Ludwig, and I don't think I had a problem with Ludwig.
Huh, interesting.
I mean, not have a problem with something means like I died 6 times, but I did it.
The 2 bosses in Bloodborne that gave me trouble were Logarius and Ludwig. So. And
on the New Game Plus, the first Bloodstarved Beast fight took him down. Just the first try, like not a problem. But it just, we all have our own demons in those types of games. And like, I think it was. I got the rhythm of him, and I knew because he flies and he has this like I'm up here and I'm right next to you like attack, and he's got the blasts and like none of those are a problem because there's a lot of like columns and things on that rooftop and it's sloped in a way that I'm like okay I can get behind stuff and this guy can't touch me. I just can't hit him. I just can't. I get close to him and I like you're close to me. Damn it. Like I just couldn't find those openings.
What weapon you were using?
I used the saw you start with for the whole game.
Saw cleaver.
Yeah. I think I swapped out just for funsies sometimes, but if I like wanted to do a good job, I would go back to that because I just got comfortable with it. But
this is my good job.
It wasn't just that it was hard and made me want to stop playing the game. I like was cursing the game audibly. I was like it just when you get angry and then 5 minutes later you're like, whoa. Like I just I blew my top there. This I must be into this game.
I love the range of emotions that I go through when I get that stuck, where first you're just mad and maybe mad at yourself, like maybe you did something stupid, but then you like try to look at it and you're like, no, this is clearly badly designed. Like how is anybody supposed to be able to read this? This doesn't make any sense. And then you beat it and you're like, man, I really like this game.
Yeah.
Like you just
I still haven't beaten Abridus, the multi-eyeballed laser guy. Who has like the little laser attacks? He's like in water. You're like in a cave and it's all crystals and you're like within like a foot of water. When he does his laser attack and I go running, he finds me and kills me. You're like, you just gotta roll more. I'm like, I'm rolling. I don't know what it is.
Only Soulsborne fight I never beat was 3 or 2 Ancient Dragon.
Oh yeah,
stupidest fight for real. Like
I didn't do that either because I didn't want to.
Exactly. There are fights, Jones.
Yeah, like Abridus is totally optional. So
Cainhurst Castle. You're like, I want to beat this guy because this is amazing, and I just want to beat him.
This just sucks.
This just sucks.
It's just so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over that fight, I was like, all right, this will be the one in this series that I don't beat. The one that got away. I was like, whatever. I'm over it.
Well, that's a bet now. It's just a stupid.
Kill the Ancient Dragon.
The next time.
Don't make
me. If I win this bet.
Did you play through Dark Souls 3, Jones?
No.
Man, I really want your opinion on Nameless King because that fight to me is.
I played at E3. I got that judge's tease when I was a judge at E3 that he were spoiled live.
Oh yeah.
Must be nice.
After I told him not to.
That's right. You put it in my head.
No, I didn't.
You planted it in my brain.
But it wasn't even that guy. That's funny looking back now, cutting 3 this week. But the guy, the big black sludge thing that pops up on the rooftop that, like, the first tutorial boss, Gundyr, it, like, pops out of his shoulder, the big arm. It's like, and then you fight that thing, something else like that. I couldn't even get past that sucker the first run of Dark Souls 3. I, like, made it to the dancer to die
I feel like
immediately.
That thing is, like, meant to kill you the first time.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, okay,
like
that can happen.
like a mini-boss.
Yeah.
Love that. Love when you are happy killing something in Souls, and you're like, that didn't even have a health meter. That wasn't even a boss.
Yeah.
I spent the last hour and a half, damn it.
But it is nice. Some of those enemies like disappear forever when you kill them. Like some of those knights.
The hunters from Bloodborne were my favorite part.
That's such a good feeling.
Oh, those hunters. I remember fighting a lot of the hunters, like, dragging them out, being like, okay, we're going to dance around this thing for like 10 minutes, and I'm slowly going to chip you down and stay dead.
Bloodborne just came out on PS Plus, so there's a hashtag Return to Yharnam event going on.
Yeah.
And people are discovering the game for the first time, and forums are being flooded with like, it just killed the Blood-Starved Beast, blah, blah, blah. And like I was just reading all about it, and I got the memory and the feeling of playing Bloodborne for the very, very first time, and I had full body chills for like 45 seconds. Just holding on to that moment of like, I remember it so clearly, that first area, navigating through, getting some kills.
See,
and I was like, all right, oh, it's good.
this is also a super shitty must be nice moment, and I realize, and so forgive me, but I enjoy playing Bloodborne anytime, but when I was reviewing it, that was the best because not only could I not rely on anyone for help, like there was no option for multiplayer. There were no guides. There was nothing. Like I got stuck in a boss or an area, I couldn't
overcome it.
Yeah, I had to overcome it on my own, and I know that you can just not look now, but I think
knowing
it's different.
There,
it's a different feeling. Like when you're in complete isolation.
Yeah,
it's just a different sensation. I long for that so much, being able to not be tempted to look and get through it. This next email is the strangest email I've ever gotten on Frame Trap, and because of that, I couldn't not
Let's
read
get
it.
weird.
Just had the weirdest dream. Comes in from James. What up, allies? Oh my god, I just had the strangest, funniest dream. I just had a dream where I was playing the drums at a wedding, which is my actual job, and in attendance at the wedding were all 9 of the Easy Allies.
Yes.
As I played the drums, I was certain to, as any good entertainer would, try to read the guests to make sure everyone was having a good time, when I noticed one of the allies seemed to have disappeared from the crowd.
Damiani.
A few minutes later, the doors to the wedding reception burst open, and drunk as shit, Ben Moore comes racing in wearing a banana costume, screaming incoherently as he turns towards another guest wearing a gorilla suit.
None of us were invited.
No, you're all there. Everybody's there.
No, I know. We weren't invited, though.
Oh.
We were just crashing this wedding.
Banana Ben Moore then runs over to the gorilla suit guy and tackles him, throwing him to the ground, prompting undercover police officers to step in, attempting to break up what had then escalated into a full-blown fist fight. However, in order to make sure the fight was not interrupted, Ben then began tossing banana peels near the officers' feet, causing them to slip, leaving Ben free to get his revenge on the gorilla or whatever. Turns out Damiani was filming the whole thing, and the dream ended after he and I watched the Jackass-style footage of Ben putting the costume on in the reception hall entrance while drunkenly explaining his plan and then kicking down the reception hall door. Never before had I truly appreciated just how delightfully strange things can be. Has the panel ever played a video game so unusual that the game was amazing, or at the very least memorable? Personally, Octodad, Doki Doki Literature Club, Quap, and Deadly Creatures, a game on Wii where you play as a tarantula and a scorpion, come to mind. Very familiar with Deadly Creatures.
I don't know, but they don't know yet, but I'm getting married soon, so I hope you show up to my wedding in a banana costume.
Drunk as shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying there's a 0% chance either.
It's going to be a lot of booze. A lot of booze.
Is there going to be a lot of booze?
Free booze.
Woo!
A lot of booze. Flowing.
Oh boy.
So
I hope like all 9 of the allies get drunk. And it's just chaos.
The weirdest game I've played is Quap.
Quap is
That
weird.
was weird.
Yeah.
Co-oping Quap too? God, I get these. You get those.
I really want you to play Sonic Dreams. The Sonic Dreams collection.
Dream? I never played it.
Yeah.
So the question is, have we had a dream about?
No, the question is, what's the weirdest game you played
Just
that you enjoyed because it was so strange?
Okay, yeah.
Deadly Premonition comes to mind. And
Good pick.
if Deadly Premonition is
pick.
not a ride you've been on, it's a ride you should go on. I think the thing that's frustrating about recommending Deadly Premonition is it really takes a while to get going.
Can we throw
and you gotta stick
Binary
to it.
Domain into that category too? Those
Oh,
two
man,
games.
I was scrolling through my PS3 games and I saw Binary Domain. I'm like, oh man, I didn't, but I really want to play some Binary Domain.
Love it.
Binary Domain like starts weird and ends up like batshit insane.
Yep.
Oh man.
Love that game. Very weird.
I need to play more weird games. As I went through my brain, I stopped on Earthworm Jim. Of all the games that,
Jim is weird.
that I have played, that's just nonsensical the entire way through.
Yeah.
And I really liked that.
And I think that's why Earthworm Jim is good, is because of how weird it is, yeah.
How about Glover? That's a weird game.
Okay.
The fact that Glover exists, you're like a hand?
I need to throw down the gauntlet on Glover.
Hardest game like ever.
Glover is terrible.
Yeah.
And I every time I suggest that, I get a league of defenders that say it was great and this integral part of their childhood. And I understand that things are important in the childhood, but that game controls like ass. I mean, obviously, some of that is intentional because you're a glove controlling balls, but it's just not any fun. Mm-hmm. I thought that at the time. I got a lot of flack. I need to play through Glover to show these people that it is a bad video game.
I don't know if I've heard of this game.
Glover?
Yeah, you're like N64. You're like, you're like...
It's a cute idea.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle platformer. I don't know the exact subgenre. Like puzzle platformer, I would say.
Yeah, you're this glove, and you can like control different balls of different weights, and they let you do different things.
It was impossible as a kid. I had that game, and I could
not. It's impossible
not
because it's ass.
And I could not progress. It's so hard.
We should stream Glover at some point.
I remember not having a good time with it.
Last email comes in from David, and I'm sorry to do this to you, Brandon, but out of all the allies, I thought you'd be a good sport to it.
Oh, I'm ready.
Calling Jones out for the latest Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it.
And this is one. The reason why I gravitated to it so much is because I was like, I know, and this proved it. Hey, wasn't sure where to send this, so I'm sending it here. Good place. Send all your vindictive emails. Right? Yeah. On the latest Q&A, Jones said he would play Spider-Man before Red Dead 3.
Lies.
Because he's okay
Straight
with
up lies.
popping that bottle at the right moment. We gotta get through the email. Through the email. All right, anyway, on the latest Q&A, Jones said he would play Spider-Man 3 before Red Dead 3 because he's okay with popping that bottle of wine at the right moment. I was doing some housework today and decided to throw on an old Easy Allies podcast, number 30, date October 12th, 2016. And it was around the 24-minute mark where you guys were talking about games being available early to those who would pay for it. Funny enough, Jones said he'd pay $500 and later on anything to get Red Dead 3 early. Yes. Busted. Have a good day, guys. All of you do good work.
Well, I'm not busted if by that time the Insomniac Spider-Man had not been announced. By that podcast that he referenced, had Spider-Man been announced. So did I know that the people who made Ratchet & Clank were going to be making a Spider-Man game?
Was Spider-Man announced?
Probably not.
No, I think it was. By October 12th, 2016?
It's a long time ago, dude.
Yeah, Spider-Man was announced a long time ago.
But we probably didn't know anything about it. So that, we probably maybe just had a name.
No, there was that teaser trailer. That's how they announced it. Do you remember?
I don't think it's a gotcha, because what if I would spend $1,000 to play Spider-Man early? And the thing,
but later on you said anything.
Anything? Oh, I would do anything? Well, I would also do anything to play Spider-Man. Just because I would do anything to do one thing doesn't mean that another thing in the world wouldn't possibly be of more value to that. And if I need to double down on my Q&A statement, what specifically the definition of the statement is that I would play it first.
Announced E3 2016.
Yeah.
All right. I would not, if I had those two games in front of me right now, I would not play Spider-Man to completion, getting all achievements, beating all bosses, going to credits, take a deep breath, and then go, let's check out this Red Dead thing. But if both discs were in my hand, I'm so curious about how Spider-Man feels. Like, it's killing me. Whereas, like, does Red Dead 2 feel good? It does. Like, are those characters well written? They are.
Yeah.
Is that world gorgeous? It's gonna be,
Okay.
But Spider-Man's like, I have a fear of Spider-Man. I'm like, the characters have got to be done or something. There's got to be something they messed up because it just seems like a dream come true.
So I think maybe the framing for everybody is a little bit off, and it is for me.
It was just the word play, not like finish. Not like review.
So you'd quickly throw in Spider-Man, check it out for an hour, 3 minutes.
Like,
okay. I think that's the problem.
If it kept my interest, kudos to that. If I kept playing it,
okay.
But I'd just be like, I got it.
But if you could only have one, it would be Red Dead.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
No question.
If
I could only play one game this year, I'm sorry, Spider-Man.
I'll buy it.
The swinging does not match the,
I think I was so excited about the calling
gotcha.
Jones out.
I love it. No, it's great. And one of my favorite things in this job, whether we're GT or at Easy Allies, is going back and being like, I went back and watched the podcast from 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Like, good job. Yeah. Like, Or just like bringing up bets we forgot about, or holding us accountable is what this entire thing is about. Like we don't make these podcasts or do Q&As or have this conversation with the community for it to be, they ask us a question, we respond, done. It's like, I want you to then respond to what we said. I want this to be a conversation. So like, I love that. I love, of defending myself.
Doing this all the time, you realize, like, obviously to the best of my ability, I'm going to try to be accurate. But
they know us better than we know ourselves.
Yes, also true. But like when you're asked to make predictions or make things up in hypothetical situations, like most of the time you're going to be dreadfully wrong. Like that's not on you. It's just you're using pre-existing knowledge, and the whole sea could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's say Nintendo comes out and they say, you know what? Screw it. We're not in the video game business anymore. Who knows?
No.
I don't know. It could all happen. That's going to do it for Frame Trap. Thank you to my guests, Michael Huber and Brandon Jones, who hasn't been on in a long time. I really enjoyed having you
me, Ben. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I think you guys added a lot.
Sorry I didn't bring more. I've been playing a lot lately.
It's okay. You know what? We're still at almost 3 hours with you only bringing one game. Thank you to everybody who watched. If you want to find out more about us, we are on patreon.com/easyallies. That's the best place to go to get more information about us. And if you want to send in your emails and your weird dreams and your vindictive call-outs, please email askeasyallies@gmail.com.
Is that a segment? Vindictive call-outs.
I don't know. That could turn bad very quickly. But
no.
Yeah. The tone of this was right.
Was funny. Yeah.
The tone of this was right. Let's set a precedent here.
This was a friendly vindictive call-out.
Yeah.
I love the anger for what you chose as your two favorite game. Oh, you like that game more than that game?
Yeah.
It's not like I said this game was bad.
No.
It's not like I'm telling somebody not to play some game. It's like, I think I would play that game first and this second.
You can clearly see 3 winky faces after Busted. There was no anger there. The 3 winky faces. If you are going to send a vindictive email and don't include 3 winky faces after Busted, it will not be read on this show. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.